Hello, you're listening to Otaku Spirit Anime Cast. My name is Andrew, and I'm joined here with Chris.
Yo.
Today's episode is our Winter 2024 Anime Season First Impressions Part 3. The final. We're done after this. Don't leave yet, Chris. I need you, don't leave. But yes, we're going to go through a bunch more titles. We have Foolish Angel Dance with the Devil. We have Dr. Elise, High Card Second Season, Delicious in Dungeon, Sengoku Yoko, Bang Brave Bravern. I hate that. I love and hate that title at the same time. It's such a stupid title. Witch and the Beast, Weakest Tamer, Urusei Yatsura, Second Season, Buchigiri, Snack Basue, Tsukimichi, Second Season, and Hokkaido Gals. I don't know what I was going to say there. But anyways, we're at otakuspirit.com. That's where you can go for all of our links, social media links, ways to get a hold of us, ways to support the channel. Greatly appreciate everybody that supports us. But let's just dive into it because we have a lot to go through. There's some of these that I think I'm going to be pretty brief on. There's a few, and then I'm like, I just don't want to talk about this. I just don't want. Let's just skip. Go on to the next one. But I do want to get everything its time. Even if I don't like them, I'm going to give them their time so people know at least what's in them, and then move on. That's like, I got some. I wouldn't call it hate, but I got a passing comment about my first impressions of Pon no Michi. The comment was basically that I dismissed the show. I'm like, I literally talked about it for like 15 minutes, and I gave it everything that I had. Saying it that way means that I didn't give it any time whatsoever. We try to make sure that to the comment itself was this idea, like, okay, this is what we do. We like to give everything a shot, even if we don't like it. Just give you what you need to know, and you decide. I can't tell you if you're going to like a show or not.
Right.
And if I like a show, you might hate it. And if you hate a show, I might like it. That's just how it works. Anyways, let's do it. The Foolish Angel Dances with the Devil, or Oroka na Tenshi wa Akuma to Odoru. And this one is streaming on Crunchyroll, run for 12 episodes by Children's Playground Entertainment, based on a manga. Genres are comedy, romance, and supernatural. This one opens up with Masatora, who is a demon, and he has been enlisted by the demon organization because apparently they're not doing good. The demons aren't doing good. They're getting their butts kicked. They're pretty much down almost for the count. And then he's called in by this Liz, who basically tells him, go to the human realm and essentially try to find somebody that can bolster all units, to get them encouraged or whatever. So he goes to the human realm, goes to school, immediately does this stupid joke that she suggests that he does, which is basically put a bald head wig on and introduce himself as that his hair fell out. The teacher's all like sentimental because the teacher's bald. And then you find out that it's actually, you know, a cap. And so the teacher gets mad at him. But anyways, he ends up running into Lily Amane, and she is gorgeous, super cute. And he's like, this is it. This is the girl that will bolster our people. I'll bring her back to the demon realm, and she can basically be an idol that will essentially cheer everybody on, and they'll fight for her. And that's the perfect plan. Well, yeah, as he kind of he ends up saving her from a truck. She almost gets isekai'd. He saves her from a truck, and then
that would be bad. We can't have her going in isekai at the beginning of the show.
That would be funny, though. It'd be probably more funny than the show. That's the problem. Anything I can say here will probably be better than the show. I'm already getting into it. But no, he had to activate his powers in order to do it because he literally stops the truck. And so she kind of pulls him off to the side and then goes, wait, what are you? And he's like, oh, I've got to tell her now. I'm a demon. And then she immediately attacks him. She is actually an angel. So, yeah, she quickly makes him submit, almost kills him, but then at the same time puts a collar on him that causes him to have to obey her command. And after this point, it kind of turns into a fight back and forth in the idea that Lily, on her end, it seems like she wants to use him in order to get some sort of gain. It seems like she's not liking how the angels are running. On Matsatora's end, he wants to get Lily and defeat her in order to recruit her to, again, help the demons. At the same time, Lily is, because she has control of him with the collar, she's forcing him to have to help her find demons so she can defeat the demons. Now, it seems like, oh my gosh, he's basically having to help her kill his own kind, but we quickly find out that she's beating the demons, making them submit, turning them into puppies, and then having some lady come by and take them to be adopted. So she's not really killing them. So it kind of insinuates the idea that Lily is not wanting bloodshed, I guess, is the thing. She doesn't like how things are run, but it kind of indicates that she doesn't like bloodshed. And that might be what she's not really liking about the Angels and how they're running things. So, yeah, it kind of mostly turns into them back and forth trying to win the other one over because Lily thinks that Masatora is pretty hot. And at the same time, Masatora believes that Lily is super cute. So they're constantly... It's basically like a Kaguya-sama Love is War kind of situation where they're both trying to make the other one submit by them just being, you know, hot or cute or whatever. And they do little things like she'll get a lollipop and lick it suggestively, and he's all, oh my gosh, doki doki, and at the same time she'll jump down from a flight of stairs. Like she literally knows that he's going down the stairs, so she hauls butt down the hall and like runs across the walls of the stairwell and then just jumps down like she's falling, and then he literally grabs her, flips her around, and then does like a nice pose with her and makes her all doki doki. So it kind of just turns that whole thing constantly. So at the same time we meet Yuka, who is this girl that doesn't like Kensuke, which is a classmate, and he's desperately trying to get with her. And so there's like this weird thing where she believes that Lily is trying to steal him away, and so there's a little bit of competition there, and that just kind of gets resolved very quickly. But yeah, that's the show. And you said that you didn't watch it. Big shock. It's not big problem. I wanted the show to be so good. I really did. I remember when we watched the PVs, I was like, okay, yeah, she's super cute. This is going to be fun. And I kind of got the hint from the PV that it was going to be again, like a battle of charming the other person and whoever wins kind of situation. But at the same time, I think this show has two main core problems for me personally. One, the comedy is just not working. I mean, even, yes, every now and then I'll get a little bit of a smile with like some of the goofy things they do in order to beat the other one, but they're just kind of, they're things that I've seen a million times. Like all of these methods, like even the one jumping down the stairwell and then doing the pose thing, it's like that's just like a very overused trope. And yes, they're obviously probably trying to play off those tropes, but in showing the tropes, it's just not, that's not going to do anything. Like, yeah, you can play off the jokes, but if you're doing the joke anyways, you're still just doing the joke. And that's kind of what I get a sense of the show for the most part, is just, okay, we're just doing all of these. We're just going down the checkpoints. Oh, did we do that one yet? Yeah, let's do that one. Oh, yeah, there was that one. Let's do that one too. And then, but it's not really like the ice pop and doing the licking. Okay, you did the joke. It's suggestive. What next? Oh, the stairwell. Okay, we did this stairwell thing. What next? And it just kind of keeps doing that throughout the entire thing. Underneath there, is its other problem, which is I don't think, like, story-wise and characters, this show really has anything. I mean, was it like the second episode or the third episode? They immediately went into Yuka, which is a side character. Instead of going into, like, building up Lily, who's the main character, or going into Masatora, who is a main character, they spent a whole episode early on going into a side character whose story wasn't that interesting. Now, it does open the door to Lily as a character and how she sees people, but it's still, again, like, this was a waste of an episode because, one, it wasn't funny because they weren't going for funny, and two, it wasn't that good of a story. So it's kind of all over the place in that regard. I think the only points that I actually really liked was the moments where Liz comes in the picture, like, especially when she shows up later on and is forcing Masatora to have to find somebody. Like, she's helping him practice find that one that would come back to the demon realm. And so she's kind of forcing him to have to go do things. Like, go ask that girl out or whatever. And he has to go do that. That stuff was kind of funny. And, of course, it was Ryukajimiya. So that's always a plus for me as well. But, yeah, besides, like, Liz's whole thing with Masatora, I haven't really had too much fun with the show. And it doesn't help the show's not... It's not a good-looking show. Unfortunately, it's... With a show like this being sort of borderline trying to get into the ecchi realm, and it being a lot about cuteness and handsomeness and that kind of fight back and forth, you got to have it look good so that I can kind of get what the characters are going through. And I think for the most part, the show just hasn't been able to kind of keep it together. And which is odd because I seem to remember with the PV, it showed pretty much the whole show. Like, I think the last episode I watched was like 5 or 6, was the scene with, you remember in the PV where he falls on her and she's got the glasses on, she looks all cute and moe and she's laying on the ground and he's on top of her. that was in that episode. So they've adapted a lot of this show already before it even aired, unless they adapted certain scenes later on and was showing that in the PB. That can happen as well. But it kind of felt like the show was for the most part adapted, and it's like, well, you should have took a little bit more time if that's the case. Meet your schedules, that's fine, but at least try to make the show look decently good. So I don't know. I think overall the show's just not really working, and despite the fact that coming into this season, I'm like, I kind of want this show to work because it looks really fun. And then, again, it kind of is because it plays off of that, again, the whole Kaguya-sama Love is War thing. I want that again. That would be great. I'm always for another show to kind of try to hit on that formula that obviously worked really well there. The problem is that Kaguya-sama Love is War works because why? The writer's a genius. The writer's a genius and never gets old. This one does. So yeah, it's just all around's not working. The action's not working. The comedy's not working. The romance is not working. They way overuse the whole, like, they have like the whole, whenever they're competing against each other, they have like this image of these two boxers, and she's one of the boxers and he's one of the other boxers, and they're like boxing each other, and whenever she would do something that would make him, like, you know, squee over her, the punch would come in, and then he'd do something that throws her off, and then the punch would come the other direction. And it was like, after like a few episodes, I'm like, please stop showing that. It's like and it's like most of the animation was in that. Like, they actually made the boxing sequences like actually good looking. So it's like, gosh dang, dude, did you waste it all here, or is that your best player was working on that? Yeah, again, wanted it to work. It's not working, but as per usual, comedy, subjective. You might like it. Dr. Elise, even Yuki down there is groaning. She's like, yeah, sounds boring. Thank you, Yuki, for backing me up on that one, since I can't get Chris to back me up. He's like, yes, Andrew, you're totally right. Let's go into Dr. Elise, though. Dr. Elise, the royal lady with the lamp. What's the lamp thing?
I don't know. I was
every time I see that title, I go, wait, the lamp. What was the lamp thing? I don't think we've had the lamp thing.
I think I bumped into it when I was clicking through the Crunchyroll, and I clicked on it, and it said something about a lamp, and I'm like, there's a lamp? Wait.
Well, yeah, I seen it when we were doing the previews, because obviously that was the title that they had, but it's still like, yeah, it's like one of those things like, what? I guess eventually might come into a picture as a lamp. I don't know. I'm like, what, 6 or 7 episodes in, and we still don't have a lamp. So
I don't have a lamp yet.
Maybe the lamp is a symbolism. The lamp is the prince.
Maybe.
Or the lamp is literally just like a symbolism of her goal. But it says with the lamp, not and the lamp. With the lamp means that she actually has it. I don't know. Maybe it's her, again, she has her goal, which is the lamp. Anyways, we're thinking way too much of this. Gekkai Elise is the Japanese title. That's simpler. It's just literally Dr. Elise. I like Japanese better. At least they didn't do Gekkai Elise, Dr. Elise, like some shows do. But yeah, this is on Crunchyroll, running for 12 episodes, done by Maho Film, which is kind of surprising at this point, as much as I've been giving Maho Films a lot of crap. This show actually looks good. But yeah, based off of manga, comedy, fantasy, romance. And yeah, this one opens up with, it opens up with a doctor in our world. And she's kind of flying around, going to different places, doing a lot of surgeries. She is being seen as literally like the greatest surgeon ever. She's just that smart. Well, we kind of find out there's a reason for that. And that's because she's actually in her second life. Her first life, she was Elise, who Elise at some point kind of forced her dad to push the king in order to marry the prince, and then she became the empress, and the entire time was a nasty empress, just was always want, gimme, very snobby, and at some point her entire kingdom turned on her and burned her at the stake, and then she was reborn in our world. And then when she was reborn in our world, she at that point regretted all of her decisions of her previous life, because she literally got burned at the stake, and the one that she loved, which was the king or the emperor, he literally turned his back on her as she was burning. So she's like very regretful about what she did. She wants to do better this time. And very quickly, she apparently lost her parents and at a very young age, and just started hitting the books. Like when she was old enough to walk around, she just started hitting the books. Her goal, she decided at that point, is to become a doctor. Learn everything about medicine and become the best doctor ever in order to save as many lives as possible. That was going to be her way of redeeming herself, is to save lives. And she started doing that. Again, she became a surgeon. Everybody looked up to her. She even went out of her way in order to be healthy. Like, don't do anything that might harm her health in order to live as long as possible, in order to save as many lives as possible. But unfortunately, her life is cut short once again because she is in a plane wreck, which is surprising because I thought she would died in the plane. I thought it was going to be isekai by plane crash. No, she correct. She lived, but then she like quickly started trying to save as many lives as possible in the plane wreckage. And then finally, when everybody was good and the ambulance were showing up, she looked down, she's bleeding out. She falls over and dies. Well, then she, at that point, was starting to wish that she could see her past family again, the family of Elise. She's like, I wish I could see them again. Mainly pointing out the idea that despite how nasty she was, they were the ones that support her. Her entire family supported her so much. And we'll even give an indication later on that the king himself even supported her, despite the fact that she was nasty. So she wants to see her family again, and she gets her wish because she pops back into the body of Elise just before she became of age, which I think was 16, right?
Yeah.
So she's like 15 and a half because it was like 6 months from that point is when she turns 16. 15 and a half, yeah, and 16. Okay, anyways, at that point, she is realizing it's like right after she like went on a hissy fit about how she wanted to marry the prince. So she quickly goes back to the dining hall where her entire family is, and her father's like, look, I'm sorry, I talked to the king and he agreed. We'll let you marry the prince. And she's like, I think one of her brothers speaks up like, that's not a good idea. And she's actually like, yeah, I think that's not a good idea because again, even in this life, she's like, I don't want to do the same mistake. And that mistake was that I became the empress and I'm not fit for it. And so I'm going to become a doctor here too. And so they go to the king and he immediately pretty much bows and says, I'm sorry. I apologize. I'm selfish. I am not fit to be the mother of the land, basically. Please, I'm sorry that I pushed you to this, but we shouldn't do this. And he's like, well, what are you going to do instead? And she's like, well, I'm going to become a doctor. And he's like, a doctor? Why would you become a doctor? And at this point, the king kind of humors her because they had a nice conversation. She even, knowing what happens in the future, that her brother was going to get involved in this conflict and would unfortunately die in this battle because this other kingdom got involved in the battle. And so she actually suggested to the king, watch out for this nation because they might attack because they're kind of near that. She does it in a way that doesn't sound like she knows exactly what happens, but she basically says that. And so he kind of humors her and says, look, go, if you can pass the test to become a doctor before you come of age, which is 6 months, then I will take away that marriage and you don't have to worry about it. But if you fail the exam, then you'll marry my son. And so she agrees to that. And so they quickly shuffle her to work at this hospital where they know that she's probably gonna have problems because it's like a where all the commoners that aren't like taken by the hospital, they put them to that ward. Like this is the ones that can't pay or they're just too far off or whatever. And it's just kind of run down and everything. But when she arrives there, this doctor that's running the place is quickly like, oh my gosh, they sent me some noble that just doesn't know what she's doing. Okay, whatever, she'll quit by the end of the day or I'll just fire her. But no, she quickly just guns in action. She basically cleans up the entire place to sanitize it. She helps this one guy who has bed sores by cutting off the actual dead tissue off of his back, patches him up really well. Even later on, the prince goes to undercover to check her out, and one of his guards ends up getting shot in the spleen. And at that time, in that setting, this is like a Victorian setting. The medicine isn't that advanced. They don't even know how to remove a spleen, and she knows how to. So she actually does the surgery and removes it successfully. And all the time, she's kind of gaining the interest of the prince, who just seen her in action doing this and is impressed by her. And then you have the king, who is under his advisor trying to push back on the whole situation, even like later on announcing at his birthday that she's going to marry him, even still. The king just sees her as a daughter and just really badly wants her, wants her to be basically married to his son so that she can be part of his family. And at the same time, the actual world of medicine is taking note of her. Like she just did something that nobody else has been able to pull off. This is a genius, basically. So that's Dr. Elise so far. How's it? Liking it?
Yeah, I'm actually very much enjoying it. I was
sure. You don't sound confident. You didn't say the usual. Well, you said I'm really enjoying it, so you can't say the other one. Okay, never mind. I'm really enjoying this. Go ahead. Sorry.
I'm very much enjoying the show. It's I'm actually surprised how much her story is actually kind of working for me. I don't know that I necessarily need a lot of the. I applaud it for the taking the time to dig into a lot of the medical knowledge that obviously this mangaka or writer has done. It's honestly very. I have a lot of respect for that kind of research. A lot of writers do a lot of that kind of stuff when they're doing their stories. They'll take the time to do a lot of research and try to get a broad knowledge. And it's obvious he's done this, or she, or whatever. And for that, I do give it a lot of props, because it is obvious that they're trying to make something that can be very, very dry, semi-interesting. But that is also to my frustration, is where I do kind of get kind of shut off, is I don't much care for it. It just doesn't,
like the explaining of the medicine. And
explaining of a lot of the medicine.
I'm mixed because I think it's on one hand, I don't care for it, but at the same time, I don't think it's spending too much time on it, which I think is a good thing. Like with the whole situation with the person that had the
splenectomy is the bit.
Yeah, that was a bit much. I think that was the only one that they kind of over-explained. But like everything else, like the king having diabetes, the guy that had the leaking lung and she relieved the pressure on it. All that stuff kind of does pretty well, like just being very surface level without getting like with this crazy terms. So yeah, I want to say that to your credit, I do agree with the spleen one, but I do understand that it was a lot to do with the fact that she had to explain to them what that was about. And then they could have glossed over it, how to like start the explanation, then cut to the after and say, and so that's what I did. And they all go, Sugoi. But yeah, it did feel like, okay, did we really have to do the whole explanation exactly how it works? Because that was a good, like, I don't know, it was like a good 2 or 3 minute chunk, but yeah.
And but for the most part, her story has been absolutely fantastic. I've really liked how much they've taken the time. Now, the thing that I foresee soon is we're going to have to at least get into some kind of a showing of her motivations in some way, because I don't necessarily, it hasn't really flat out played her off as just completely nasty in her previous life. It's kind of just, she has said that she made a lot of bad choices, and she has said that she was very full of herself. So there can kind of be a playback, because the king was, you have this character reference type thing, and the king was absolutely in love with her. He absolutely loved her. And that kind of plays into this idea of,
as a daughter, by the way,
as a daughter,
the emperor himself, or the king after he dies, is like, it's not interesting because they kind of played off that he just did not have, I just think he was off put by her, because the new route, it seems like he's kind of okay with her. But I think that's a lot to do with, kind of similar to Seventh Loop, where it's like this, okay, now she's acting different. She's not acting like a snob, obviously. So yes, obviously she's going to be appealing because she's gorgeous, she's smart, and she doesn't want this. Whereas the past Elise wanted it. She wanted it so bad for her own gain. And yeah, she was technically nasty. And it's kind of fun to get those little references every now and then where she's like, yeah, I learned how to make tea because I so badly want to make tea for him, and he just didn't like it. And then, yes, he made that comment about, I'm only doing this because my father said so. And it's like all these things that kind of made her believe that she hated him. But then it hasn't clicked for her yet that he didn't like the old you.
Yeah.
It's like, that is one side where I'm like, girl, you are so smart, kind of dumb. Like, I get, you're so book smart, you have no clue how to interact with people, apparently, because it's like, I mean, even as a doctor, you have to interact with people. I would assume she would have social skills, because otherwise, because doctors see people and have to communicate all the time. Why wouldn't she have basic knowledge of because you were a nasty person that he didn't like you. Because it was funny because like that, even that first moment where he's like, okay, go see each other, go talk to each other. And they go off together and she's like, I'm so sorry I put this on you. I know that you don't want this. And he's like, when did I say they didn't want this? It was like one of those moments like, yeah, he doesn't hate you. I mean, it doesn't, for somebody like him, it's like, it's not really a choice either, that a prince would typically have. Sometimes you're kind of just signed to go to somebody. And in this case, I mean, yes, she seems like she's very knowledgeable and knows what she's talking about. So it is kind of one of those oddities there. But I think that's kind of my only area where I think they're starting to pivot to do it well. But my only area where I'm kind of not sure about yet is I don't know if I'm going to like the romance. I think they're doing well in having the prince showing his side of it, which is surprising because typically with these shows, typically with these kind of more, I don't know, a female lead show, doesn't always have to be shoujo, female led shows where you have a prince and the female character. I always end up understanding the female character before I do the prince. And it's always the prince is like, at some point I go, okay, yeah, I guess I do like this side of it. Or sometimes I'm like, okay, I got it. Like, the seventh loop is a good example because it's on right now. And that one I'm still at this point, I think I'm kind of struggling with the male, I understand that he's interested in her because she's not like anybody else, but I haven't got anything else from him. This one is a rare case where I understand the prince before I do Elise. And I think right now what they're kind of posing as the question mark is, first of all, with the prince, it makes sense because it is one of those cases where he wasn't off put by her, and then he sees that she basically saves his father, so that's going to be a big win there. Saves a bunch of his men, that's a big win there. She's obviously very smart, and now he's firsthand seeing how she is brilliant in being a doctor. Firsthand experience, her helping him with his issue. And from her end, it's kind of going in that question mark area of like, now it's like she's sort of being doki with him in disguise. And it's like, I wonder if that's going to turn one of those things where he's going to constantly keep his two personas, or is it going to come to a point where he just says, look, it's a disguise. And then she goes, oh, I've been loving you the entire time. Doki. But I do like what they're presenting with that relationship, though. That is one thing that I do like, is that they're typically with these things, it's one of those things where they either don't feel they're worthy of that position because they did so wrong last time, or it's a case of they just kind of fall in love. With this one, it's literally, I have this path that I feel I need to do, and in marrying him, I won't be able to do that. And I said it in my first impression, I'm wondering if it's going to go in that route of, yes, you can still save lives as the Empress.
Yeah.
Because then you can delegate to thousands your knowledge. Focus on giving others your knowledge so they save millions versus you one at a time saving lives.
Right.
And I would, that would be where I would assume a story like this could go. But that's going to be the massive question mark, is what she's going to do. When she finally falls in love with him, is she just going to go, well, I love you, but at the same time I want to keep doing this? And he goes, well, you can keep doing that even as the Empress, which that shouldn't work, but I don't know. I don't know how this world handles their Empresses. Do they have to stay locked up in the palace, or can they just do whatever they want to do? He seems to be spending plenty of time running off on his own. I like how her brother literally tells him, you keep running off and you have stuff piling up bad, dude. And he's going to her because he's like tired and stuff like that, because you're probably going to visit her. Oh, that's right. He does have this, what was it, lymph nodes or something like that were flaring up or something like that. Yeah, I think the thing that I do agree with you that I think it's not doing well enough in showing her,
Thyroid.
Yeah, thyroid, hormonal thing. I do agree with you that I think one of the weaknesses that the show has right now is really showing why she is so, what she did that was so wrong. And yes, a lot of that seems to do with her selfishness to the point where she drove the nation to eventually turn on her. So I'm assuming it's going to probably be this idea that she used her power in order to manipulate things, and then people died. I think when she first got back there, she went and seen her family, but then she quickly started writing down everything that happens. One of the things was that her brother was going to go to this battle and get killed. And she also mentioned that there was a pandemic, some sort of epidemic that comes which I'm guessing is probably going to be the Core's ending. I would kind of see that being like the big thing that she has to solve, is how to stop an epidemic of some sort. And that could be something that she was involved with, not. But again, why is that her fault? I do agree with you. It's like, she's not the king. She's Empress. So anything that she did would have to be on his hands too.
Yeah, and that's...
But was it because she manipulated him to the point where he allowed it, and then that's why he turned on her eventually? What makes her think that all that blood is on her hands is going to be the massive question mark. She does indicate that she's a nasty person. I mean, we have the typical villainous restart type of story where immediately the maid is scared of them and they go, oh crap, that's right, I was always mean to them. But it's always just shots of her just being like she wants his attention and not being a nice person, I guess. Like, she did some terrible things to Julian. threw a frog at her and threw her shoes in the water. She's like, I'm sorry. It's like, oh, okay, never mind.
Well, and it goes to speak to how much, I mean, in a way, how impressed I am with the writing so far. That I trust them that this character isn't so flat as she was just an evil cackling ringlets. I'm owed the world, and so therefore I'm evil. No, I don't think that she is quite that shallow. I think that she has some depth to her. Yeah, she clearly states that she made bad decisions. But like I said, when I mentioned that there is the characters that are speaking to her as a character, like I said, the king, her family obviously were supporting her in a lot of cases. Yes, there is that scene of the prince turning on her at the last second, but it doesn't necessarily mean that he hated her the whole way. I mean, yeah, you have that clip of him saying, well, my dad forced me to do this. I don't think that it's quite as clear as, well, he could have either been lashing out. He could have just clearly been felt in a situation where he needed to say that. I don't necessarily think that negates, because like Andrew had mentioned in the other scene where he is walking with her in the garden, he says, what makes you think that I don't want this? Both of those things can be true at the same time. Him saying that his dad forced him to do this, and him not necessarily hating the fact that he's married to her.
Well, I think it's because he hasn't experienced all the things that eventually would lead him to say that. So.
Right.
Once he started living with her, then he's like, oh gosh, this girl.
What I mean is I have a lot of trust in this writer, and I think that she's going to be a lot more deep as far as a character. Do I think that she's going to be fantastically written? I don't think it's going to be perfect, but at the same time, I think it's well written.
See, I'm in the same mindset that I appreciate the writing so far, but from the angle that I think that is why the past stuff doesn't bother me.
Right.
Because I'm liking the writing so far, because I'm liking the interactions, because I'm liking everything that Elise is doing with, like, going to the other hospital, helping people out, gaining their trust, doing things that make them feel comfortable. Like, she goes out of her way to do these little things that seem useless to most doctors, but she does it in order to help them. Like, they have this one scene that I think is perfect to as an example is, at some point, she just starts clearing the brush off of the window on the outside of the building. That's not her job, but she does that so that the sun can get in, and the patient that's in there that's bedridden is able to get some natural light in there, and, you know, feels warm. It's nice and warm and everything. She does these little things that helps them be more comfortable, and yes, doing all those little odds and ends that most people don't think about, like sanitation. So I like how they're playing her out in her desire to help people, and not that she wants attention. She's doing it because she wants to help. Even when presented with, like, going to a big hospital, like, no, I'm just doing what I need to do in order to help people. Hey, what can I do to repay you? You got the bill, right? I don't need anything extra. This is exactly what I'm supposed to do. This is my job, to help you. She does a lot of great things, and I think that writing makes me not care so much about the fact that we haven't got too much into her past. Just assume that she was a nasty person, and that's why she wants to save lives. It doesn't necessarily have to mean that she literally torched an entire town. It's just that she felt she was terrible, and now she wants to do whatever she can in order to save lives. It's just, yes, it does technically hint at the idea that she took lives because she's trying to save lives. But that could be in the idea that she did things and that, you know, took money away from the common people and people starved and died. It could be that simple. And again, makes me go, but I think that's partly the Emperor's fault. But well, I guess we'll put that aside. Not maybe she was doing it without his knowledge. Maybe he was out in battle and she was messing up things. Who knows? But again, I don't think I mind just because I'm liking the interactions and the chemistry and the characters and what she's doing. So it's turned out to be not an incredible show, but a very enjoyable show. And I think it's mostly because it's kind of led by a very solid main character. So we'll see. We'll see from here. But anything else? Yeah, Dr. Ellis. Let's do High Card. This is gonna be probably a quick one. High Card second season. This one is running for 12 episodes on Crunchyroll. For those who don't know, High Card is a series that opens up with this kingdom that has all these different playing cards, and at some point, some people attacked this kingdom and took the case that had all the playing cards in it, and they got spread throughout the entire nation. Well, the king at that point started sending people out in order to find and discover the cards and bring them back. And we follow one such group, which is working to uncover those. It actually starts out with Finn, who has one of these cards, and he ends up meeting that organization and then forced to join the organization in order to go find these cards. And he's met with different other individuals. His card has the ability to make him summon a gun, and he's able to shoot really precise. You have like Chris, who had this card that allows him to, he has to eat a bunch, but at the same time, it makes him like, not like, it makes him pretty much immortal. You have Leo, who's able to, he's able to create anything out of nowhere, but he has to spend money to do it, which works out great because he's the son of a rich dad. You have Wendy, who basically goes to her other persona, which is some crazy chick with a katana, and so on and so forth. And yeah, that was pretty much the whole first season, was them all kind of working together. The main focus for like the majority of the season was Chris, when he was trying to activate like this, where you can take multiple cards and activate them in order to essentially transfer the power to somebody else. So he was going to use his power to heal his sister, who was sick. And they were all trying to stop him, but he ends up, you know, doing the whole process. And in the background, there was this whole story about this mafia group that was trying to get the cards from the kingdom itself, and so on and so forth. Going into the second season, we finally have Finn, the main character, run into this person from his past. He's always had these dreams throughout the first season. He always had these dreams of this nightmare of, at his family's home, this individual in this full suit of armor burning down his house and attacking his family. And finally, he met that person in the first season, and then now he's confronted him once again. And that person seems to be trying to get the cards as well. So, yeah, it all kind of culminates so far in this season to reintroducing the characters. Chris is not doing good because his powers are waning, and he's losing his immortality and getting sick. And at the same time, you have the mafia group attacks the main headquarters of their group and steals all the cards they've gotten so far. So they reset. All the cards we've gotten are gone through a really stupid attack, which I have to admit. And yeah, that's pretty much where I've gotten so far. They then covered up the whole thing, and the kingdom covered up the attack on the building and all that kind of stuff. And then Finn's trying to get the band back together. I have to admit, I'm not liking this season. I actually, surprisingly enough, enjoyed the first season. I thought it was why it worked so well is because it was charming. It just oozed charm. It's very, for lack of a better way of explaining it, it's very dandy. It's got that dandiness to it. You know, all these guys in like dandy suits, and they're going and doing stuff and taking down the bad guys. And it was always fun. Like, the actual fights themselves were super fun. Like, I suggest everybody give the first shot of the first season. Just give that a watch. You don't have to keep watching. Just watch that first season. That's what I mean. It's fun. Now, I won't say that first episode is like the whole season, because there was some lulling points. But overall, I enjoyed it because it was very buddy cop. You had, you know, Finn and Chris, and they kind of bash heads for a while, but they still kind of worked together. And it was just kind of interesting to them go out there, fight the next big thing that had some ability that they had to kind of overcome. It was fun in that regard. Getting the second season, I don't know if I'm just in a different mindset right now because it's been so long since the first season. It's just not working for me. Like, this season is just not... I mean, to give you another example, technically Urusei Yatsura this season's kind of working for me, whereas the first season didn't. But I have my predictions on why that is the case with that one. This one, it feels like that charm's gone. Like, the original charm that made that first season so great isn't working. And I think that's because it's gotten too serious. Like, it's Chris is dying over here, and Finn's trying to get everybody together, and then they get fully attacked, and then they lose all the cards, and... over here, the mafia boss guy is beating the crap out of this guy, the leader of their group, and it's just like, it doesn't feel fun, I guess, is the main thing there. And the story itself has never been interesting. It's just the Pokemon got all spread out, and they have to go collect all the Pokemon. The Dragon Balls, they all got spread, and they have to go collect all the Pokeball, or the same Pokeball, the Dragon Balls again. And then, like, at the middle of it, they kind of are getting into the cards themselves. And again, that's not interesting. Oh, they were all created by this round table, basically. And, okay. So, like, the story itself has never been the main key thing here. And yet now they're trying to make it the main key thing here, and it's just not working. Because, again, I feel like the charm's lost. So, that's my thoughts on the second season so far. I don't even know that I'm going to continue it because I just feel like there's a lot of other stuff that I could be doing that's better suited for my time when this isn't just, it's just not working for me. There was maybe one episode that was fun, and that was they ran into a guy that his card made him super fast, and he's basically Flash. And that was kind of a fun episode because they were trying to capture him, but at the same time, he was a good guy because he was technically helping people. So it was like one of those kind of, should you really take his card away? But technically the kingdom doesn't want anybody to have the card, so he kind of has to. So, yeah, that's the thing. Oh, yeah, and Surga Peas is still trying to investigate the whole situation. She's the rookie cop that's trying to solve the case at the same time. It's Ria Takahashi, and she did a great scene in the first season, like, a really good scene. I keep forgetting to write down these cool scenes. Remember when... It's like, we always think easily of the best scene in anime for voice acting. It's the one that always pops in your mind, is the supernatural battles became commonplace. But then every now and then I'll have these other scenes.
I still think it's Grimgar, so.
Grimgar? I wouldn't say it's better than the one from Supernatural Battles. But like,
they're both really good.
There's like every now and then I have these scenes happen, and like, I really should write that down. Like, again, Surga Peas from the first season, she had a really incredible scene over there. It was mainly the scene where, again, she's this rookie cop, and this whole idea of the cards is not supposed to be known by public. And so when people start throwing superpowers everywhere and things are blowing up and she's in the middle of it all, she just suddenly just freaks out. And it was like, oh, dang, that was a good scene by her, which is not saying much because Ria Takahashi's amazing. So it naturally, but yeah, that was like another, I mean, even with like Fapta from Made in Abyss, that was an incredible scene too. Blew her out her throat. Like, she did that so well that she literally, she hurt her throat. But there was also another one here recently that popped up, and I was like, gosh, dang, I need to start writing these down and just do a video on like my favorite voice acted moments. Because, yeah, anyways, that's high card second season. Delicious in Dungeon is our next one. That's not what I want to do. I want to do delicious in. Okay, Delicious in Dungeon or Dungeon Meshi.
Dungeon probably would have popped up faster.
I was spelling delicious wrong. Well, I mistyped, and then I thought that I misspelled it, but then I just mistyped, and anyways. Yeah, streaming on Netflix, running for 24 episodes. I keep forgetting that this is going for 2 cores. Done by Studio Trigger, based off of a manga, and the genres are adventure, comedy, fantasy. And this one opens up with an adventuring party led by Laios, and they are currently fighting a dragon in this dungeon, this labyrinth. And at this point in which they're pretty much going to get wiped out, his sister, who was their healer, she decides to, she's currently being eaten by the dragon. Like, she's literally in his mouth. She decides to teleport the entire party out of the dungeon, back to the surface. At that point, most of the members, besides Marcel, which is their mage, and Chilchuck, decide to split. They're like, yeah, we're out of money. We just can't do this, so peace out. But Laos is like, I cannot not go back in there. I gotta go find my sister. I gotta dig her out of the body, get her out of poop, whatever it is. I need to go retrieve her body at least. And so he's like, I'm gonna go back in there. And of course, Marcel and Chilchuck, they're like, we're going too. And he's like, okay, yeah, but there's one problem. I'm immediately going back to the dungeon, and we have no money, so we can't even eat. So I have a plan, though, but you might not like it. Sure enough, his plan was that he has this monster cookbook, and there's like apparently some tribes in some areas that actually do eat monsters, and he wants to try it out in the labyrinth monsters. Cook them up. And of course, Marcel's like, what? No way in hell I'm going to eat monsters, but they don't have a choice.
Marcel is awesome. I love her.
Eventually, they end up running into Senshi. Well, they try to do their first cooking session in this like lobby area, and immediately they're met by Senshi, who shows up and says, "You're doing it wrong. Move over." He starts kind of doing all the process of how to cook the food, and makes something that, yes, it's monsters and kind of unsettling, but it's actually good. You really get a quick idea that Laos, who's basically their tank and leader, he just has a thing for monsters, and he's always wanted to eat monsters, so he's always for it. Marcel doesn't like the idea of eating the monsters, but you always end up liking him anyways. Since she is like this guy that's been down the dungeon for a long time, he's been cooking these monsters for a long time. We find out later on that he even like manages an entire floor of the dungeon, like with golems and planting vegetables and crops on them, and also gets fertilizer from the bathrooms in that floor. Somebody apparently cleans out the bathrooms. We don't know who it is. Yeah, it's Shinji. And that's why you're eating vegetables that are fertilized. Think about that for a second. Chilchuck seems like he's their thief character, does a lot of the trap removals and senses traps, and he takes his job very seriously, because obviously if a trap goes off, people die, their lives are in his hand kind of thing. And yeah, every now and then they'll get a little bit of flashbacks of their past time adventuring together, and how Fallen, the sister, used to always do things to encourage them and was really powerful and all that kind of stuff. So that all plays in it. The overall story is this idea that at some point in the past, there was this rumbling at this one village. The people went out to the area that they thought it was coming from, which was like the graveyard, and this guy appeared out of nowhere. This guy claimed that his kingdom was overtaken and controlled by this evil mage, and so he said, anybody that goes down to my kingdom and saves it from the mage, he will give them everything. And so what turns out to be is actually what they are kind of assuming is this labyrinth, because down this hole appeared, they go down it, and there's this massive labyrinth that goes all the way down. And yeah, certain areas kind of look like sections of the castle itself. So they're thinking that if they get to the end of the labyrinth and beat the mage, they'll get whatever riches or whatever. So that's Delicious in the Dungeon. So you watched it?
Yeah.
What's your thoughts?
I love it.
Yeah?
I do. I think in a lot of cases, jokes aside, I think Marcel is really the reason why I get such a kick out of the show. I absolutely love her.
She kind of carries it a little bit.
Yeah, her reactions to everything is just absolutely fantastic. I do get a kick out of Chilchuck and Shinji and Lars and all them. They're all each goofy in their own way, but she absolutely nails it every time. It's like I can just hear her kind of screaming about what was it in this last episode? It was she didn't want to she couldn't cast the spell on him because his his stuff was his beard was not clean. And what was it? She had done something he had done something, and she was just not having none of it. And I can just hear her flipping out with her that she absolutely was not going to do this, and she just nails it. I love it. One
of those rare cases where, because on Netflix they're doing like simul dubs of everything else, it's like one of those cases where like no matter what dub I hear of her. Like all the language are doing a really good job of her.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like I think it was the French version's like really good. So even though I don't understand what she's saying, you just know what she's saying based on the fact that she's just upset. Yeah. Anyways.
But yeah, I love it. I'm having a blast with it. I kind of hate that I have to find it, and it's out of my way for my normal show. So yeah,
it's like, yeah, we mentioned that last podcast. Like it sucks. There's so many different platforms right now that are streaming anime, which is like I say I like because of the competition, but I've never really seen Netflix as being competition. Never seen Disney/Hulu being competition. So it just makes it out of the way, and it doesn't feel like competition. That's the problem. So, but yeah, I'm of like multiple minds here. Let's get the first and negative one out of the way. I don't like foodie shows, and this is a foodie show. I don't care for the food making. I don't care for the process of preparing and everything. After a while, you do kind of realize that it's a lot of them. This writer likes to essentially make real food with monster counterparts. So, like a good example early on is this one little creature that hides in the wall, and Laos goes in there and lures it out and stabs it in a way that doesn't, puncture anything bad. And he basically, it's almost like he's just kind of taking apart a lobster. Like it literally is he's cooking a lobster, but it's like a scorpion or whatever in a wall. And that's kind of what they always do. Here's a crazy cockatrice thingy-majiggy. It's a chicken. So they're making chicken. So it's always like a monster that sort of looks like an actual animal or whatever that they're cooking into a meal and overly explain the whole
mimic
process.
Is a hermit crab.
Yeah, and that sort of takes a little bit of the rough edge off of that, of my dislike for watching food being prepared and then eaten, which has never been interesting for me. Despite my stature, I don't care for food like that much. And I've always been bored watching a lot of these types of shows, like even with Campfire Cooking. I like that show, but when it comes to the food points, it's just like I want to skip forward. I don't care about the chopping process, and I don't care about how well. Gosh, it looks so well animated. Why does all this animation have to be wasted on cutting food? I'm the type that I hate seeing Twitter posts of going, "Oh my gosh, look at that slicing through the meat animation." I don't care. It's just wasted animation, in my opinion. You can literally have a character do this, like the camera.
You put your Sakuga in the wrong place.
Yeah, like you can have a shot where the camera is directly at the character's face, and you see for a brief moment the blade comes up and then comes back down, and it would be the same effect to me. I want to see Marcel freaking out about the food. That's the word I want the animation. I want to see like taking down the monster to be the animation. Use the animation there. There, it's wasted. And if you're in, I'll admit, Trigger with this show, everywhere else looks good too. So just, I don't know, work on another show at the same time. And whenever you're going to make an overly animated cooking scene, just animate something else. But anyways, that aside, and to help that as well is it's not the whole show, thankfully, because I would not be watching this show if it was the whole show. It's just kind of like a good, I don't know, 3 or 4 minutes, sometimes 5 minutes of every episode is to cooking and preparing and eating. Now, with all the reactions and everything, all that stuff out of the way, the rest of the show, this is kind of a two-parter. One is the fun adventure, which I love. I love just dungeon diving and the geekiness that this writer has with dungeon diving. This writer loves cooking and loves RPGs and dungeon diving because there's too much. It's like TMI in a good way. Like there's too much information here. I kind of describe it to a lot of people. It's kind of similar to like Made in Abyss, where it's like it's a labyrinth. It's just like the Abyss is basically a labyrinth, and they're both weird about it. Like the world they are in is weird, but it's like take the Made in Abyss setting, but then start getting geeky about everything about it. Like let's go into great detail about the monsters. Again, when it gets too much of the detail about how to cook them, that's where it loses me. But I do like how much this writer just loves just getting into everything about a dungeon. Even like the whole explaining why, yeah, where do they go to the bathroom and why isn't it piling up? Oh yeah, it's because this Shinji dude's cleaning out the potties. there's a little bit too much information, and then you have like bars set up in some of these levels because technically you would want to have a drink or something like that. And then what happens with the monsters when they show up at that bar? They just kill everybody. It's so like it so realizes the world, despite the fact that it's kind of dorky, which does get me into like a little bit of an uncomfortableness that it seems like they don't care about death in this world. They're so like nonchalant about death in this world. I mean, they're literally talking about going back down there to find the dragon and look for her sister in the poop. But like, even with the bar scene, these ogres come in and just kill everybody, and they're just kind of like standing there like, oh, cool, okay, don't kill us, hopefully. They just hang up the body so that somebody else finds the corpse, because we gotta go. So stupid. Anyways, the other part of the series that I'm shocked by, like, this is the part where it's like, I really like it, but I'm also kind of surprised that it gets this heavy. It gets serious a lot. Like, it gets really serious. Like, despite my jokes about how nonchalant they're about death, which, I mean, yes, it's understandable because it's an everyday occurrence. Why would they be nonchalant? Why wouldn't they be nonchalant about it? They're seeing bodies in these dungeons all the time. This show gets super serious and actually handles a lot of subjects very well. The ogre thing was a huge shock for me. Like, out of nowhere, suddenly they're going to the ogre's place. They're going to kill them. The ogres capture them. They're going to kill them. And then it turns into like this whole thing about, Marcel basically yelling at the ogre, talking about how they're the ones that tried to attack them first. And that's why they took their land and then they got driven off into the dungeon. There's like this whole like revenge begat revenge, this whole thing, this cycle of hatred basically. And I'm like, wow, okay, we're doing this. And yes, it's cheesily enough solved by breaking bread together, but still it was like the aspect of food bringing them all together, but it was an aspect of them coming together and realizing what was important. And I was like, okay, this is actually, I wasn't expecting this, and it's really wholesome. So like, wow, good on you for having like something that doesn't feel off, but at the same time has the impact, and something that actually turned out really well handled. So yeah, I think through and through, there's again this kind of stain here, which is admittedly my own fault. I just don't care about the food stuff, but everything else I just love. Like, if it literally took this out of it, it'd be a perfect show for me. And if you like this stuff, it's a perfect show probably. But yeah, I'm really loving it. And then yeah, like I mentioned before, the animation is just super good, and the comedy is just on point. Like, I just have so many moments of laugh with this show. Just like I think my favorite part so far was Marcel getting the it was a good little message in there too. Marcel literally feeling like she's not helping, and so she went out of her way in order to apply her knowledge, because she feels like she's prepared for so long. She tried to apply her knowledge on how to obtain mandrakes. And for those who don't know, mandrakes are typically these roots that when you pull them out of the ground, they immediately scream, and in a lot of series, they'll kill you. Like, the scream literally kills you. It just shatters your head. So a lot of cases, you'll have to pull them from a distance or have some sort of protection. And so the idea was, in her books, it was to pull it for the string or whatever. And literally in the book, it says to have a dog tied to it and have the dog pull it. And everybody's like, but that'd kill the dog. That's terrible. Why would you do that? She's like, yeah, that's right. So she literally goes this whole process to have this bird pull the string, and she's on her own, and it pulls the mandrake over to her and it hits her with it. So she's like, and this in effect, it basically makes her like, it jumbles her head for a while. And so she's got like this whole cross-eyed thing going on for the longest time, and she's just talking gibberish, and they're trying to console her a little bit. And then now after a while, everybody's trying to tell her, oh, you did that because you feel left out. And so they're trying to tell her things that make her feel good. Even Chilchuck, who's very tsundere with her, is like, yeah, you're good at this whole thing. And she's like, say again, dang it, you're he just gets all mad at her. It was fun. It's just got a lot of really fun moments. And yeah, I fully agree with Chris. I think like 95% of my love of the show is Marcel. I think she's just too good of a character. She's so fun. I mean, a lot of that has to do with the fact that she is the straight man character. Yeah. And I think that works so well in a fantasy setting with the absurdity of, eating monsters and nasty things. So it works out really well. So I'm looking forward to it. This is kind of one of those ones where I'm like, I'm really happy this has 2 cores. Really happy. We're getting a lot of good 2-core shows right now. Jeez, dude. I mean, last season we're calling in with Apothecary Diaries, Undead Unluck, and Forever, and this season we're apparently going into 2 cores of this show, and we're going to see Yatsura, so good stuff, good stuff. But yeah, anything else? Yeah? No? Okay. Let's go into Sengoku Yoko. One that I've actually been looking forward to talking about. Because, like I've stated before, sorry for everybody else that's been around for a while and get to hear me repeat this over and over again. Sengoku Yoku is a series written by Satoshi Mizukami, which, for those who don't know, is the one that wrote Planet With and Biscuit Hammer. I did not finish Biscuit Hammer the anime because they butchered the hell out of it, but Planet With was really incredible. I like this writer because he has the ability to kind of present something that might not seem on the surface to be something good, but he's really good at slowly unraveling a deeper plot line and character developments that lead into some great stuff. And since this one's going to be fully adapted, 37 episodes, 3 total cores, and White Fox is working on it this time, and they're not butchering the hell out of it, I've been extremely excited for the series. And yeah, I think per the typical opening up, I think it's got a solid start out with, you know, introducing the characters, but I'm already seeing with these recent episodes, I'm like, oh yeah, now we're already starting to hit the major plot lines that could be really interesting. But yeah, it opens up with Shinsuke, who is a swordsman who is traveling to strengthen himself. He's trying to prove himself to his homeland. And as he's wandering around, he ends up running into a situation with these bandits, and he's going to take down the bandits. Well, as he's hiding and, looking after the bandits and seeing what they're doing, eventually these 2 individuals show up, Tama and Jinka. Tama is a fox spirit, or Yoko, and Jinka is an immortal spirit, or Sendo. And he quickly sees Jinka, of these 2, take out the bandits by using this, like, summon ability to summon up these rock hands that beat the crap out of the guys. And Shinsuke is like, holy crap, how'd you do that? How do you do that? Show me how to do that, because, again, he's wanting to get stronger. And they're very dismissive of him, but then he says that he will show them where the bandits' leader is if they, they let him follow them around. So they agree to that. They go to the bandits' leader, where Jinka, at that point, well, Tama first goes up and tries to talk them into not being bad. Tama's way of kind of getting them to stop being bad is to say, well, see, I have a good reason why you should stop being bad, and that's because, eventually you're going to grow old, and if you just spend your entire life being bad, nobody's going to take care of you, and you'll be left to basically starve. So it's a good thing that you all just, get a village and support each other. So that way when you get old, people will support you. And yeah, they laughed that off. At which point, Jinka activates, well, at first, Jinka just beats them all up, but then come to find out, the bandit leader is actually being possessed or controlled by what they call in this world a Katawara. And Katawara are basically these spiritual beings, unlike the humans. They pretty much present that most everything that's not human is basically classified a Katawara. But yeah, this Katawara quickly attacks them. Jinka ends up doing this spirit transformation with Tama, where he's able to essentially take a bit of her blood, and it will cause him to gain her spirit fox ability, or Yoko ability, and infuse it to himself, and then he's able to become pretty much like a fox spirit and beat the crap out of everything. Well, following this, Shinsuke starts to follow them around. Tama explains the fact that their goal as siblings is that they are traveling the world and trying to make people be better. They're sort of the in-between between the Katawara and the humans. So you have humans, there's bad humans, and they'll stop the bad humans. There's bad Katawara, and they'll stop the bad Katawara. And they're kind of in the middle there in that darkness between the 2 of them, and where these 2 worlds meet, basically. So that's their initial goal. Eventually, that leads in them finding out that this entire monk group is fusing humans with Katawara in order to make strong humans. And so they go to stop that monk group, which ends up completely ticking them off, at which point Jinka and Tama become essentially wanted by this monk group, and they're sending everybody to come kill them. Which, yes, all kind of leads into them meeting Shakuyaku, who is one of these people that has been infused with Katawara, and he is a human that was infused with a Katawara. And there's like a really nasty story about that, and the idea that when she was infused, she immediately went crazy, went back to her home village and killed everybody. And so she has that blood on her hands, but kind of tries to move forward from that whole situation. But yeah, that's and then yeah, here recently they got a dragon sent to them, which is Jinun, and that was a really cool scene. He's basically Orsted. He looks like Orsted. They should have had him voiced by Kendra Suda. That would have been perfect. But no, that was incredible. But yeah, my thoughts on Sengoku Yoku so far. This is crazy because I will admit that early on, like the whole sequence of the introductions and leading into Shinsuke following Tama and Jinka, them having the run-in with the Katawara / human Shakuyaku, and then them eventually going to the monk's place to take them down. All that stuff, that lead up right there was kind of okay. I'm not going to oversell people. As much as I love Satoshi Mizukami, I'm not going to oversell people on that was like some incredible stuff. It was enjoyable, and it looks good. I like the style of it. I think Tama is so much fun. She's just a great character in the mix. Jinka and his hatred for humans. Shinsuke, kind of the perspective of the human, looking at the absurdity of the Katawara and the spirits. All that stuff is fine. It was just a good introduction. And again, it looked good. It wasn't until the introduction of the dragon that I was like, okay, this is going to get good. Because it was at that point where they started getting more into the idea of those that were infused with Katawara can sometimes have a coexistence, an overcoming, or just a failure. And they sort of imply the idea that the idea of having the Katawara take control is a failure. The idea of having both existing is a failure. But the idea of the human themselves taking control of the Katawara is where it works the best. And at the same time, yeah, you have this incredibly powerful dragon shows up and just wrecks one of these Katawara human hybrids and turns into this aspect that Jinka and Tama are going to basically be hunted down by the entire monk organization. That's where things started to get rather interesting for me. And I think with the presentation of that fear the dragon kind of instills upon Jinka and the group is where things start to really kind of ramp up for me. Additionally, we're already hinting at the idea that Jinka himself is changing. You went from this idea that he hates all humans, doesn't trust them. It obviously shows that he was raised by Katawara, and at some point his family of Katawara were slaughtered by humans. So it's an obvious reason why he hates them. At the same time, Tama is the stark contrast in the idea that Tama seems like she loves humans. And they were starting to dabble into her and why she loves the humans so much, and the idea that it looks like she was obviously raised by humans. So there's all these like really good storytelling that are starting to pick up at this point. Now, there is fears that I have every now and then that this could get episodic, but from what I understand with the arcs they're going to be going through and the fact that that's not really the style of this writer, I don't think that will be the case, but it has me extremely excited for what's to come because I'm already seeing those evidences of what Satoshi does. And again, that's where it seems like it's basic, and then at some point things start to unravel, and if it goes based on, again, my experience with Planet With, that's going to just absolutely snowball into some really good stuff. So I'm really excited for it, and I've been enjoying it so far, and I cannot wait for more of it. And hopefully Chris gets on board, because he liked Planet With. So eventually he's going to get into it.
I watched an episode.
Good. How'd you like it?
I loved it. I thought it was beautiful.
Beautiful. The OP is amazing. The OP is so good. The OP is so good. But no, I loved the introduction of the dragon. That was so freaking good. And it's one of those things where it's rare to have like for me, unfortunately, it's rare anymore that a villain character is introduced where I feel dread. And we always, the example that always comes to my mind is Ushio and Tora. Like they nailed that villain character so well. But that was a long build up. That wasn't so much like a bam, it feels that way. I think that what White Fox did with Jinun in this show was incredible because literally Jinka senses it. Somebody says that the dragon's showing up. Jinka's terrified. Suddenly this guy just shows up. And he's got this big cloak on. He's got the white hair. He looks tall, and he just looks tough. And then Jinka starts freaking out. He immediately teleports. Like, he's so fast, he splits past Shakuyaku, who is about to face off against this hybrid. shoots past Shakuyaku. Shakuyaku doesn't even have a chance to turn around. Punch. And he immediately, in that punch, transformed into his dragon form, which is basically like scaled fist and then this dragon head. And he just straight punch. And that this foe that seems powerful just gets one shot. Just flies off in the distance. And then immediately, it's like it cuts to, he turns, and it shows he's still in that dragon form. It's a close-up to his head, and he's turning, and this smoke goes by his face, and he turns back into his normal self. I was like, it was such a good shot. But what made it was the sound. The sound was so good. Like, the roar of the dragon that they use, the sound effect for that, and you have the drums going in the background. Do-do-do-do-do. It's such a good shot. I was like, that was like probably one of the most epic like introductions of a baddie that I've seen in a long time. I was super hyped for the eventual next run-in with him, possibly. I would assume so. But yeah, it's good stuff. Good stuff. And Tom was great. Tom was great. So yeah, that's Sengoku Yoku. Let's talk about the show that I think our Discord, at least, is talking too much about. Like, there's like 3 people on our Discord that I think are just too much of a fan of this show. It's like, I like it, but I think you guys are getting a bit too heavy on this show. Bang, Brave, Bravern. I think it was supposed to be Bang, Brave, Bang, Bravern, but I think Crunchyroll chose Bang, Brave, Bravern. I forget. But yeah, this is running for 12 episodes on my side game Pictures, an original. It's a mecha. I would probably put comedy in there, but there's a thing about that doesn't necessarily make it a comedy. But yeah, this one opens up in a world where it's our current setting, and we zero in on Hawaii, where the U.S. Marine Corps and the Japanese Self-Defense Force is currently doing a joint practice mission where they're going to go on this little beach and try to take over this strong point. And as they're kind of going into the strong point, you have Isami Ao, who is from the Japanese Self-Defense Force, and Lewis Smith, who are currently both going that direction. And they both disobey orders, and it seems like they're both kind of... Lewis is trying to keep up with Isami, and Isami is just kind of a hothead and rushes in there and nearly takes down the bad guys, but then the mission itself is cut short, and they're both disciplined for not following the orders. We cut forward, and Lewis ends up finding Isami and telling him, man, that was a really cool move. Did you get disciplined? And he's like, yeah, me too. And then he's like, man, what'd you do to your mech? And all that kind of stuff. And then cut forward, and suddenly this massive space alien ship shows up out of nowhere in space and launches these little pods to different locations on the Earth. Think Aldnoah Zero. Suddenly, just all these things rain down in different locations of the Earth, and immediately these aliens come out and just decimate everything. Well, we cut back over to, Isami and Lewis, and they quickly are trying to fight back. All the people in Hawaii, the military forces there, are trying to fight back. Most of their commanders getting wiped out. And we're at the point where everybody is just about dead, and suddenly this Bravern shows up. This big mecha just launches out of nowhere, lands right in front of Isami, and says, Isami, get inside me quickly. And he's like, all right, cool. He jumps inside there, and in Bravern just wrecks everything. There's like goofy super mecha music playing in the background. Isami's going, what the hell is this music playing? And he's like, hey, Isami, say Bravern strike, and all that kind of stuff. And he's having to yell his attacks and slice through all these aliens. But even though it was weird, he takes all the aliens out, so they're saved. And then quickly, Isami is thrown inside of a room, waterboarded, to find out what this Bravern is. The remaining commanders are basically having a round table with their wall of the building busted out, so Bravern can join them and talk to them about what's going on and tell them about the aliens that are attacking. And the entire time, Bravern's talking about how great Isami is and that he needs to pilot with Isami. He has to have Isami pilot him again. And eventually they get attacked again. Lewis has to go in there and bust in there and get Isami out of the interrogation so that he can get him inside of Bravern again. Lewis even offers to get into Bravern again. Or Lewis offers to get into Bravern in place of Isami because Isami turns into a Shinji and doesn't want to get into the mecha anymore because he just got waterboarded after he did last time. Why would you get in the mecha again? He's like Shinji, but he has an excuse. I mean, Shinji has an excuse. I'm an apologist for Shinji. He has to feel his arms being ripped off by aliens. But Isami doesn't want to do it because, again, he got waterboarded. But yeah, eventually Isami okay, fine, I'll do it. Gets inside of Bravern, fights the aliens again. this all leads to them. Lewis at some point ends up, one of these aliens they fought was like, it looked a lot more sentient. It almost looks like Bravern, but different color and everything like that. So it seemed like different than the other aliens. Well, when it died, it shot out a pod, and Lewis, walking on the beach, ends up tripping over that pod, which is not a pod. It was just what was in the pod, which was Lulu. They find out later is Lulu. And she's this little girl, and she doesn't talk other than say Gawapi, and barfs in his face immediately, but lives. And they test her out, find out that she's got like organs like a human, but they're like all shrunk because it seems like she's never eaten anything. And so he's having to take care of Lulu because Lulu's like obsessed with Lewis now. So he's just having to take her everywhere. So like the government just kind of assigned him to have to take care of her. Again, they're technically the government, by government, basically the leaders of this small gang, because again, they don't even know if the government's still there. But yeah, they eventually decide they're going to go to Japan because Bravern told them that it sounded cooler because you don't want to go to the land of the rising sun, you don't want to go to the land of the setting sun before you go to the land of the rising sun. So we have to go west. You got to go to Japan first because it sounds cooler. So they go send a drone. The drone finds out that Japan's basically just a land of fire. It's like it's all gone. It's just destroyed. And that's about as far as I've gotten. Oh yeah, and then Bravern takes Isami to a bar where everybody says that he thanks him for helping, and that bolstered his hopes.
I have a very important question.
Sure.
When do they start doing the opera?
The opera.
Well, yeah, when do they sing to each other?
Every ED.
So they do this once an episode?
Yeah, the ED. It's Isami and Lewis locking fingers and singing.
But nowhere in the entire like synopsis of all of this did you say anything about opera.
They don't have to. They just do it in the ED. It doesn't have to be part of the show. You see everything in every ED and OP in the show itself? No. Do you see girls twirling around in circles in Maid Dragon? No, you see it in the OP, don't you?
Pretty sure.
Are you asking for the
pretty
tops?
Sure they did.
Are you asking for everybody to start spinning like tops in Maid Dragon? No. Obviously this show's weird, and I guess the best way that I can explain it is, despite the fact that you have literally an entire, it's of two minds essentially. Is you have like the world of Bang Brave Bravern is serious because again you have the world itself is being wiped out. Like every human on the earth is being wiped out, and the only remaining people alive, seemingly so far, is this little squad that's fighting back against the aliens. And everything's taken seriously in the idea that everybody's obviously dealing with death. They're mourning the death of their friends. They're trying to survive. Again, Isami's being waterboarded because he's apparently out of nowhere suddenly got this amazing tech that he's fighting with that came from the sky, the same sky that the aliens came from. You got everything is taking itself seriously, but it's not, because what is placed right smack in the middle of all this is Bravern, which is literally a comedy routine based on super robots. And the idea that my assumption still at this point, as much as I've watched, is that Bravern is probably an alien, obviously one of the same of these aliens, because it talks to one of the robots as if it knows it and says that him and Isami is going to change their ways. So it's obvious that Bravern doesn't like what the aliens are doing. So I'm assuming he came from where the aliens are coming, but he probably intercepted a super robot show. He's going to be the otaku alien that consumed Japanese medium, and now he wants Isami to be his pilot so he can be a super robot, just like the super robot shows. That's my assumption, because Bravern it doesn't fit the world, because he comes there and he's literally a dork. He just, I need Isami to get inside me. And yes, there's plenty of very suggestive jokes in that regard. He's the only one that can control my controller shaft. No, Lewis, you can't get inside me. I will only let Isami ride me. There's a lot of that joke. It's got like that yaoi thirsty joke in there. But at the same time, he's that comedy act that's just in the middle of all this that makes this absurdity that just kind of infects everything else. And yeah, there's some comedy to be had there, especially with Lulu. Lulu is just like this. I paint Lulu as sort of the alien unknown girl that empowers somebody else. You know, like your Outlaw Star. It's kind of like that concept of the core girl that's mysterious. I mean, even Sindhuwali Noor is doing that. The mysterious girl that is super powerful and enriches the main character. And then you have, like, yes, it's going in that whole joke about, like, the cutesy alien girl that just can't speak anything and you just want to protect her, and she's super cute and she does doofy things because she just doesn't have knowledge. But she's so obnoxious. Like, she's that trope and then, like, cranked up to 1,000 because, like, she's, like, her first introduction is literally her vomiting on Lewis and then immediately falling to the ground and screaming, "Gawapi!" And he's like, "What the hell?" Actually goes, "Jesus." And then it cuts to later on when she finally awakens again and she starts beating the crap out of him. And then after that, she likes him and then punches Isami just because Isami brushed off Lewis's hand. She's kind of like, she's almost like that obnoxious level. And I think that's like almost intentional. But at the same time, you have, yes, this, I don't know, weird suggestion that it almost feels like they're trying to yaoi bait Isami and Lewis. And the idea that, like, Lewis is constantly, like, trying to help Isami, and Isami doesn't like Lewis because he's always goofing around with this Lulu now, and so like this weird yaoi tension between the two of them that doesn't make any sense. But it's just, it's one of those shows where I think it does absurdity right, where it doesn't feel like the whole thing is a joke. It doesn't feel like a comedy, and I think that was what I was mentioning earlier. I wouldn't even put genre comedy, even though it's funny because it's purposely not being purposely funny. It's the best way I can explain it. And the idea that it's not, especially with Bravern, they're obviously being goofy and it's supposed to be funny, but the world itself is almost taking itself too seriously while Bravern isn't. That's the best way to put it. Bravern isn't serious in a world that's taking itself seriously. And I think that's sort of where the gold is that I feel in the show, is I think that's where it's good. Now, there's probably a lot of this show that I'm not personally getting because I'm not like a super robot fan. I'm like, I don't go out of my way to watch all the super robots. But at the same time, I think I know enough that I get it. Like the whole, like, you have to yell the super blade attack ability for it to work, even though he doesn't ever actually do it properly most of the time. And again, you have the music playing in the background, and Isami hates the fact the music's playing, and it's like total super robot music with like the oh ha da 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 da, you know, that usual super mecha stuff where the male singer that's just kind of screaming his lines, and it's all like energetic and everything. It all kind of works very well together. I don't. Okay, I will admit though, despite my praise, I think when it's getting into the core story and just the odds and ends between all the funny moments, like it just, I can give or take it. Like it's just, it doesn't work half the time. Half the time it's like, okay, this is fine. It's a very much so a show where I'm constantly waiting for the next absurd moment because the in-betweens aren't that great. It looks good. The show looks really good. I love the character designs. The girl characters in the show are freaking gorgeous. Miyu is gorgeous. Love her character. But I don't find really a lot of the show that interesting. I think it's doing very good as regards to a mecha show, which we don't get really, surprisingly, we don't get really much mecha shows anymore, that I do kind of appreciate having a solid mecha show. And to have one that is absurdly funny is kind of a welcome treat. But I don't know. I'm curious if it'll have the legs that it needs to be a full show that I will enjoy. I kind of think it will. But I'm kind of in the area right now where I enjoy the show, but I don't know that it's going to be like a contender in the end, basically. So we'll see. But so far, I've been enjoying it. So that's Bang Brave Bravern. Like every now and then they try to say, like, call Bravern something. He just interrupts him saying, Bravern, it's Bravern. Bravern's a dork. The Witch and the Beast time, Chris. It's our Witch Hunter Robin show. We finally got a Witch Hunter Robin show, Chris. Majo to Yaju, which is streaming on Crunchyroll for 12 episodes by Yokohama Animation Lab, based on a manga. And the genres are action, adventure, drama, and fantasy. And this one opens up with Godot and Ashoff. And Godot and Ashoff are working for this organization that essentially every now and then will send them a letter. And they will open that letter using this kind of seal magic to unlock it. And the letter itself will tell them a mission they're supposed to take. So they'll have to go to this location and investigate these killings, or go to this location and investigate this thing and resolve whatever issue. The order itself, this company, this organization they work for, is essentially an organization that just focuses on anything to do with magic. So if it's a mage doing the bad thing, if it's deaths involving magic, or, which Godot is about the only thing that Godot cares about, the presence of witches. The witches, any presence of witches needs to be hunted down and taken care of. And Godot, the reason why Godot only cares about the witches, and that's the only reason that Godot joined this organization, is because Godot is actually not Godot, but somebody else that was trapped inside this body and wants to find the witch that did it so they can take him out, so they can be returned to their old body. As we find out in the first episode, there's like 2 known methods to undoing what has happened to Godot. One is that the witch has to have a essentially their mind change. They have to undo the spell. And the witch likely not going to undo the spell because they did it for a reason. The second one is for them to kiss true love. Like that whole like Prince Charming kind of concept. Well, Ashoff has a third opinion, like this theory, that they're both together. And the idea that if Godot kisses the right witch, they will undo it. Well, this only happens temporarily. So far, we had this one point where they did that, and Godot was able to go back to their original body, which was like this big hulking monster thing. But it only lasted for so long, and they got put back into the body of this girl. So yeah, Godot and Ashoff are traveling around, solving different cases. Like they had the first one, they took down this witch. The second one, they were trying to find who was killing all these people in this one town, and they ended up finding out that it was an artifact. They found the people that had the artifact, took them down. The third case is where we cut over to 2 other individuals that are in the same organization, which is Fenora and Johan. This is the point where I started getting really into the show. And we kind of find out that Fenora is, slight spoiler here, it's the 4th episode. Fenora is a necromancer. So she is able to, they get into the lore of necromancers in this world, is that they are people that are enlisted to bring back the dead. As we find out later on, there's 2 sides of that is sort of a question mark. Yes, some people, when they lose a loved one, it'd be great to have them come back. Well, there's oddities about it. One is that you have to have maintenance done. So the necromancer that brings the person back from the dead, which is in a lot of areas by law allowed, they have to do maintenance on them to keep them not decaying or whatever, or messing up. But there's the other side effect to the whole situation that they kind of imply that not everybody knows. That if you do bring somebody back from the dead, the process requires the necromancer to essentially grab the spirit before it heads off into the rebirth, off into the point where they'll be reborn. Because when you die in this world, when you die, your spirit will kind of prepare itself. And then once it's prepared itself, it will go off into become rebirthed. But what a necromancer does is it grabs it before it goes off and sticks it back into sort of the spell. Which, unfortunately, what that means is that the moment that necromancer's body, the undeaded body that was created, once it dies, it's no longer able to go off to be reborn. It has to go into the void. So there's like a side effect to it. But anyways, yes, Fenora is looking into these cases of undead, like outbreaks, and going crazy, and she eventually finds this one necromancer that's doing it all and stops him and all that kind of stuff. And then the next arc that we got into is the introduction of the Paladins, which they've kind of hinted on already, which the Paladins are what I assume they were going to be, is when things are going bad with witches and magic, they send the Paladins. The Paladins is the big organization from the government that gets sent out, which they don't want to send out because they cause havoc. Like when the Paladins show up, when you have a problem that's not getting solved by normal means, you send the Paladins. And why you don't send the Paladins immediately? They destroy things. But they have them essentially attacking this one town. Godot and Ashoff have to go find the witch that apparently is there. they kind of find out that it is it's a very weak witch because it is of the original bloodline of witches, which typically they are weak. But she has the presence of the demon sword, which is world ending. And she's voiced by the Seiyu for Karane, so that's why it immediately grabbed my attention. I heard her in the PV, and I was like, or the preview for the next episode, I'm like, oh my gosh, they have Karane in the show too. Every time I hear Karane's Seiyu, now I go, it's Karane. But yeah, this series so far, I'm liking it, and it took a while. I will admit this is a show that I wanted to be good because I was getting Witch Hunter Robin vibes. Not really. It's I get a tinge of it. It's definitely got that setting and that style, but it doesn't get anywhere near to nailing Witch Hunter Robin. Witch Hunter Robin is just kind of this thing in a bottle that just worked, and I want more of it. But still, that aside, it not achieving Witch Hunter Robin levels does not mean it's not a good show. It's just a hope that I had there. But coming into the show, I really like the chemistry of Godot and Ashraf. I think they're a fantastic group because essentially Godot is just like Eris on like level 5,000. Like, she is just a spitfire. She doesn't want any BS. She just wants to know where to point me at a witch so I can go kill it. I don't care about anything else but that. What, you had a letter? What is it? Ah, it's not a witch. I don't care. Give me a job for a witch. I don't care about anything else. And Ashraf's over here basically trying to keep like a collar on Godot. Like, chill. You have to wait. You wanted witches. The only way you're going to get handed a witch is through this organization, because they will eventually give you a job for a witch. If you don't work for this organization, you're going to just have to find it on a whim. Go traveling the world and hope that you run into one. At least this way we know exactly where they're at. But in order to work for this organization, we got to keep doing these jobs. And a lot of them are not going to be about witches. So again, he's like the one that's kind of keeping the collar on Godot, keeping him chilled out, don't attack things, just relax. And yes, is seemingly the brains versus Godot's bronze. Like, Godot is just about punch things, whereas Ashraf is always about strategizing, planning things out, and he is a mage. He's able to use different incantations and everything like that. And then their two, like I said, them two is solid. I like their chemistry. They just work. I just like that spitfireness of Godot, and Ashraf just kind of being chill and just handle the situation. But it wasn't like anything was really grabbing me in the first like 2 arcs. Like, the first episode was a single arc. The second episode was the second and third episode was a single arc. And even with those first 3 episodes, it just wasn't quite grabbing me, besides kind of giving me a decent introduction into the mechanics of the world, like the mages and the witches and artifacts and Godot's situation and Ashraf's situation, which we haven't really gotten a full clear picture of why Ashraf's working for Godot or helping Godot. But yeah, it wasn't until I think like not even the following arc with Fenora being introduced, it wasn't until like that big reveal for Fenora where I was like, gosh, everything's kind of just working now. Like, Fenora's introduction was okay. Like, she's just this very beautiful lady that's going around with this Johan guy who's carrying all of her bags, and they seem to emphasize a lot the fact that it's really cold around her, and even emphasize a lot of that with showing kind of her breathing out like little puffs of her breath coming out, so you can kind of see that temperature. But it wasn't until like later on where you have the necromancer kind of takes them hostage, brings them into there, and Fenora's sitting across this table from him. And at some point, he's getting all cocky about the situation. Wants Fenora to basically be wants Fenora to give up her body so that he can create his wife again. And Fenora at that point just kind of reveals everything. That like, no, I'm not going to work for you. And he sends all of his, he's like, oh man, you don't want to do it the hard way. He sends all of his maids who are undead to her, and she just basically just pushes them and they turn to dust. And then she literally shows that she's a mage. And you see all these little, the way that they show magic in this world is all the incantations like go around their body, like circle around their body. It's just like this tattoo that constantly circles their body. And so the guy's like, oh crap, you're actually a mage. It's like, yeah, I'm actually a mage. Sorry to deceive you, whatever. And then he brings all of these crazy undeads that he's modified into the room, and they're completely surrounded. And at that point, she reveals that she's not just a mage, but she's a witch. Or she's not just a necromancer, but she's also a witch. And so that kind of changes things completely, because she's a extremely powerful necromancer. And the idea that now she can basically summon, like, she calls them, what was it? She has like a very honorable title for them because she respects them so much. These are typically undeads are, you know, family members, but an undead to allow a necromancer to control them without any sort of pay or whatever is incredible. And these knights that she has, which are like these death knights, these are all fighters of the past that have all agreed to allow her to make them her servants, basically. And so they're just like these big hulking monsters that just completely decimate everything. I was like, okay, this is really cool. They're starting to get into all these mechanics. And then follow that up with the introduction of Helga, who's like of this bloodline and having this chaos demon sword and all that kind of stuff. It's one of those series that, again, those first 3 episodes, I'm like, it's okay. But then it keeps kind of ramping up. Fëanor's introduction, Fëanor just wrecking everything, and then going right into this whole thing with Helga and the paladins and all that kind of stuff. It's doing that kind of upward trend that I'm kind of seeing happening a lot lately, where I'm like, I'm so glad we give these shows a little bit more than, you know, 1 or 2 episodes, because it's shows like this where I'm like, I would have given up on this already, because it wasn't really doing, it was okay, but it wasn't doing it enough. And I think it's now finally starting to do a lot of stuff. Visually, it's not the greatest, but it's not bugging me with some of its kind of lack of like crazy Sakuga or anything like that. It's doing enough that it's keeping the show. When in the battle sequences, it's doing enough that I'm not like displeased. But again, I'm not saying that it's an incredible looking show. It is keeping a solid style to it, which I do like, and so hopefully it kind of holds things together going forward. But yeah, I'm really liking it, and I'm looking forward to more. This is actually turning out to be one of my favorites of the season so far. So we'll see where it goes from here. But it's no Witch Hunter Robin. It's no Witch Hunter Robin, sadly. Let's move on to a show that Chris wants to talk about, I'm sure. Can you guess, Chris?
No. I don't remember the list anymore.
Is there a show that you have not talked about that you just so badly want to talk about?
Not particularly.
The Weakest Tamer began a journey to pick up trash. Or Isekai Garbage Disposal Corporation. And no, we don't mean By the Grace of the Gods, which did porta potties.
The show that was absolutely designed to make me love it. I mean,
it's the OP with that smile, the shampoo smile, so cute. Anyways, yeah, this one I'm surprised you actually like, because it's so depressing. That one episode was too much. It was like technically 2 episodes so far. That's like rough to get through. But anyways, streaming on Crunchyroll for 12 episodes, done by Studio Masket. The source is a light novel. Genres are adventure and fantasy. And this one opens up with Famicia. And Famicia is 8 years old when the show opens up. And she is fleeing her village. And that's because her village wants her dead. She's basically like the beacon of everything that will go wrong with the village. And she must be wiped out. Because at the age of 5, every person in this world will go to the church. And the church will do this prayer, and the gods will essentially bestow upon the person at 5 years old a skill, sometimes multiple skills, a skill and a rank for that skill. And this can be like rank 1, it can, or start 1 star to 5 stars. I think they've kind of indicated it's 1 to 5 stars. And well, when Famicia got to age of 5, everybody's excited, her family's excited. Man, what would you want to be? And she kind of mentioned that she'd like to be a tamer, and they're like, oh yeah, there's other skills though, like their father is a carpenter. And at some point, yeah, when they test her, she's tamer, but no star. And that didn't go over well. Even her father is just disgusted by it. Like, how could I have a 0-star child? And at some point, they kind of went about her life. Like, it seemed like they were being really mean to the all that. Right after this, yeah, pretty much the father storms out. The wife is like, no, please, honey, don't do that. And then the sister and brother basically say, get the hell out of here, Ivy, or Famicia, sorry. Famicia just runs out of the house, flees to nearby kind of a little cave, where eventually Luba, who is like the fortune teller of the village, she shows up and starts taking care of Famicia. starts to essentially guide her and teach her everything she needs to know about how to survive. Trapping animals, getting the meat off of them, doing all this, the processing of the meat itself, all that kind of stuff. Everything that she needs to know about to survive. Also gives her a whole bunch of books, gives her a magic bag that can hold a lot of stuff, but not, and it also lowers the weight of it itself. And also tells her one very important thing. Whenever you can, go to the royal capital. And if by chance on the way there, you run into a village where you feel safe enough that, you trust the people there, be sure to tell them the truth about you. And that's kind of something that's been cemented in her head. Eventually, the fortune teller dies of an illness, and the current chief of the village at that point decides we need to hunt down Femecia. We have signs that the fortune teller was taking care of Femecia, and that's why she died. She was cursed, and so now we have to find Femecia and kill her. So that like 3 years after she got her skill, so she's 8 years old now, and that's why she's fleeing. But anyways, she starts traveling. She flees from the village, starts traveling towards the royal capital. Along the way, she ends up finding a very weak, very, very weak, the weakest of all slimes, as the book tells her. Like these slimes are so weak that they don't even last a day. Their life, there's not much knowledge about them because they die within a day. Well, she decides because this slime is so much like her, she's going to stay with it until it, passes away. But turns out it didn't. And so for me, she's like, okay, well, if this book isn't truthful about this, then what if everything I was told about taming isn't true? So she tries to tame the slime and it works. So apparently, even though she's a 0 star, she was able to at least tame the weakest slime ever. And additionally, she decides to disguise herself as a boy, takes on upon herself the name Ivy, which gets us into the other special thing about Femecia. She gets the name Ivy because, and this is something that they haven't really fully gotten the details of, and I'm not really sure exactly what its purpose is in the story. Because Femecia,
it's to do a little dingling and then
so you can so you can have isekai in the genre and it sells because it has isekai in the genre. It's like the writer wants to write a story about this poor tamer and her life trying to struggle to survive, and then the editor's going, but it needs to be isekai. All right, I'll make this thing talk to her every now and then. Yeah, what they've kind of put as that, yes, even Ivy herself, Femecia, will every now and then explain the fact that she does have knowledge in her mind of her previous life. And the way that it's actually portrayed is, yeah, like Chris said, every now and then a ding will happen, and that the ding is how the anime sort of signifies that at this point, Ivy's being talked to. I'm sure in the light novel, all it is that she's doing something, and then suddenly it's probably in like italicized lettering or something to indicate that this is her inner self talking. Because how it's kind of played out is that you'll hear the ding, which again is the signification that this past memories and self is talking to Femecia. And then all we get on when we're watching the show is that Femecia will then reply to it. Like at some point she's asleep and Sora, the slime, is going blah 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 blah, and then Femecia wakes up and goes okay, and then like taps it on the head, and then suddenly bing, and then Femecia goes, what? An alarm clock? It's like an alarm clock? That's weird. What's odd about this whole situation is that, yes, that's the kind of the uniqueness that is given to Femecia, in that the idea that despite the fact that she's a tamer with no stars, she's also unique in the idea that she does have memories of her past life. The thing is that it's playing it out as if it isn't her memories, because she's not constantly going, oh, that's an alarm clock. She's going, what? You're saying it's an alarm clock? It's almost like there is a past self that is in her mind that is speaking to her in her mind. Not that she's tapping directly into those memories. She's being told those memories. So that's kind of the oddity that they've kind of played this out as an isekai, is that it's just implanted memories that's speaking to her. So it's almost like there's a fairy that's just standing here outside of her head that's telling her things every now and then about a previous life. And she's even herself mentioned the idea that this is what makes me unique, is that I have memories of a past life, but everything this past life self has told me is useless information. sort of get, like I said, kind of going that realm of like, what is the point of this then? Like, it is yet to actually apply something to her besides, yes, technically suggesting that she be Ivy. And a couple times where it has told her things that has kept her sort of from getting up. Like, there's one moment where she's like, man, I would have so much of a better life if I wasn't a 0 star. And this other self basically tells her, you know, thinking about that all the time isn't going to change it, and it's not going to help you move forward. You need to kind of move forward. And it kind of helps her to go, yeah, I need to stop thinking about that and just move forward. Anyways, she eventually rises to this one town, starts to essentially catch rats and sell it to the butcher there, was making some good money, but then eventually these bulletin boards start popping up that shows her face, and she goes, oh, crap, I gotta leave because now somebody's gonna capture me. She then goes to the next town where some really nice dudes there. She ends up befriending, or she ends up catching the attention of the guy that's guarding the front gate, and that guy is Ogoto. And Ogoto ends up starting to tell all the guards about this boy that's a traveling adventurer, and that, you know, if you see him, make sure that you help him out. You know, this kid that needs our help and all that kind of stuff. So all the guards are all like, "Hey, Ivy, how are you doing? Are you eating well? You know, do you need any help?" And he's just freaking out Ivy because she has no trust in anybody at this point. Like, literally, she's being hunted down by her village. The second village she got to, she thought she was comfortable, but then she felt that she was going to hunt down there and everybody's going to turn on her. So it's kind of an uncomfortableness that she's getting there. But over the course of like these baddies that were in the town trying to attack her and falsely charge her for stealing their tent, she gains she starts to trust them a little bit, and then leaves the town. And then leaves the town again. That was like that was my biggest upset here recently. I was like, God, this place is cool. You have the Ogoto and all these dudes are so freaking nice. Oh, she's leaving the town. But the fortune teller said, when you find a place that you're comfortable, stay there. This is the place. And then she leaves. Like, dang it. Now she's going to go to the next town. They're going to be mean again. But yeah, she also did learn from somebody. It was a merchant that was selling the fruits that were native to her home village. Ends up finding out that apparently, yeah, there's some rumors going around. I mean, every now and then we got a glimpse, we got a whisper here and there with people going, oh, that town? Yeah, that town's not doing so good right now. Well, they kind of find out Luba, which was a fortune teller, was like pivotal for that village, because what she would do was she would foretell them when to plant the crops and when to harvest them, because it's a very finicky thing to produce. And since that was like its economy was selling those fruits and distributing them, they had no money left. Well, they also claim that essentially Luba was so pinnacle to that village, the chief didn't like that. And so he didn't give her the medicine that she needed to overcome her cold. That's why she died. But then he turned and made Phoenicia the blame for it. He claimed that Phoenicia was cursed and thus cursed Luba, and that's why Luba died. And now the entire kingdom the entire village is just poor. He's choosing who gets food, reducing how many mouths are fed, and now the essentially everybody from the village is fleeing. So, which means we're probably gonna get Ivy running into her family again.
Yeah.
I'm like, how are they gonna catch up? But they're probably gonna catch up somehow. Like, Ivy's been traveling for years, or not years, but been traveling for a while now. But for somehow his family, the family's gonna catch up to her. You know, I know it. Anyhow, she also befriended.
Kitty cat.
There's also the other critical thing is that we're starting to see what's so special about this weakest slime. Again, the books have no information about these slimes because they die so fast. But we're slowly learning over time that, yes, this slime only likes to eat potions, certain potions. There's like 2 different types that it's eaten so far. At first, it was only blue potions. But then later on, there was another type. I think it was red.
Red.
And that's the only thing it eats. And then after a while, yes, Phoenicia gets injured and it jumps onto her arm and heals it. So we find out that this slime can essentially is a walking potion, basically. And yeah, she ends up running into a cat that's injured, and the slime heals it, and the cat likes her now. It's like a really ferocious, beastly cat, but it's super nice to her. And I'm waiting for her to tame it. But yeah, that's the story so far. What's your thoughts?
I absolutely love this show. As I kind of hinted at before I started talking about the synopsis, I this show has like every box on the checklist of things that will make Chris love this show is all checked. It's absolutely underdog story. I mean, this poor girl has gone through hell. I guess isekai. I mean, I don't know. It's not a isekai per se, but it is kind of got that.
The weird thing is it's not very influenced by it. So I'm like, I'm waiting for that moment where suddenly it suggests something that actually makes sense to Ivy, but it hasn't yet done that.
Exactly. I mean, I'll let that one slide if it's going to be a isekai or not, whatever. Cute character, absolutely. Just a chill vibe story per se. It can get dark here and there. We'll see how dark it does get, but as it stands right now, it's just fun, just going through the world, surviving, kind of chill life so far. So we'll see what happens.
I think early on it was I like the style of the show. I think it's a very beautiful show when it wants to be. I don't think it's like consistently good looking, but it has had some really good animation in the show. And like I said, I do like how overall the style itself and its portrayal of a lot of the scenes I think have been really gorgeous. Like, I mean, the whole scene of her like being attacked by a bunch of little slimes and her just running off, and the taming of Sora I think was a really gorgeous scene as well. It has some really good, very beautifully portrayed scenes. On the story itself, I really do like this show. This is easily the best of the new shows of this season, which really sucks because it's like way down in the most popularity charts, and understandable because I don't think there was much at all in regards to advertisement for the show. I don't think there was much expectations for it, but it really did kind of come out swinging for me. And I think that, yes, it's a lot to do with the underdog story aspect. Is this obviously it breaks your heart seeing this girl literally at the age of, yes, 5 technically, but then later on at the age of 8 being essentially told that her entire family and village wants her dead. It's really heartbreaking, but it does make sense as to why this girl is able to survive the way she is, because she spent like a good 3 years just being trained to survive by the only person that she could trust. It obviously seems like the fortune teller knew what was going to happen. I think at some point she even kind of gave her some warnings as to what was coming up before her 5th birthday. And at that point, she kind of came in there again to kind of tell her what she needs to do in order to find happiness. And that was to go to the capital. And again, kind of open the door to anywhere between there that if she feel comfortable to kind of stay there. So it is kind of one of those stories where it does technically open up a lot of question marks as to what it means to be a 0 star. This anomaly that should not exist. They obviously portray it as being sort of an evil omen, but at the same time, we've established, especially with this recent insight into what's going on with the village, that that's not apparently what it is. The assumption early on is that, yeah, being a 0 star means that you should be put to death. And I think even with the synopsis, we got that indication like, oh gosh, this is a story about this girl that is what she shouldn't be, and now everybody wants her dead. It's not really the case. It seems like it's just really a bad chief that is trying to pin everything upon her because of his own mistakes. But I'm very curious as to what the overall world thinks of no stars. Like here recently, there was a good chance for her to tell somebody, and she chose not to. And instead, they were kind of forced to assume, oh, it's because she's a 0 star or a single star. And so they're making a lot of comments about like, yeah, there's a lot of people with 3 stars that are just wastes of space. They're bad people. And there's a lot of people that are 1 stars that are hard workers that do good things. So don't worry about being 1 star. And it's one of those things like she's thinking in her head, but I'm not a 1 star. That's how bad it is. There is sort of this kind of element of her being treated so terribly back here that she's struggling to find trust with people, despite the fact of what Luba told her in finding somebody to trust and opening up and telling them everything. She's constantly struggling with that and constantly struggling whether she can trust people or not. And it sucks that every time it feels like she gets comfortable she flees. And I hope it doesn't become sort of a commonality. Now, granted, technically this recent time, she wasn't fleeing, but she did leave. I hope that I'm hoping eventually they'll get to a point where we can have her sort of settle down for a little bit, because I feel almost like it is pushing her along too quickly, and she's constantly having to readjust with every scene that she's going to, which I think is helping her sort of mature and learn to trust people. But at the same time, there is a lot of that fear that this could turn into just too much of introducing new characters and having her have to... Now, granted, it doesn't waste a bunch of time going into, like Ogoto and what he does for the town and everything like that. But there is sort of a fear that I have that this might spend too much time having her enter new villages and meet new people over and over again, and it just not to amount to much. So that's probably the only thing that I'm kind of fearful of. But outside of that, I've been enjoying everything about it. I think Famicia Ivy is just way too cute. It's the whole want to protect the smile joke in essence, is I want her to be happy. And when she does find happy and joy, it just warms my heart. At the same time, I'm curious to see what more they'll kind of get into with her abilities as a tamer. I have theories that... My theory currently is that 0 stars is probably going to be... It could be like the whole joke about, because it's 6-star, it doesn't register on a 5-star, prophecy or whatever. Or it could possibly be those that are 0-star is just misunderstood, and there's actually some element about it that is actually incredibly powerful.
I was going for they're just unlimited. They have no limit, basically.
The joke that I kind of came up with is that this is one of those rare cases where you assume, being a 0-star tamer, she's probably OP. She just doesn't know it. And this is one of the rare cases where I just want her to be OP. Like, yes, I get kind of sick of the OP main character isekai shows, and this is one of the rare cases where I'm like, I want this girl to be OP and summon dragons and just take out her old village. Just be OP, girl. My only hope that her not being constantly hurt is that she either gets all those cool guys from the OP to protect her, like the Knights were doing a pretty good job of it, or she becomes OP and then she got Seal now, and Seal's pretty dang powerful, but it's not a tame.
She just needs to become OP, start her own city, bring Ogata to keep her safe.
Its major exports are going to be rats.
Mm-hmm.
I like that everything that she calculates is based off of rats.
Around rats.
She did it once, and I was like, okay, that's kind of funny. And then later on, when these other guys kind of attack her and Seal saves her, and they bring him in there. Oh yeah, they're wanted for murder. Oh yeah, by the way, here's the reward. And then she goes into it again, breaking it down. 1 rat equals this coin, and this many rats equals this type of coin. And so if we do this and times this, it's 5,000 rats. It's like everything. I just have expected her to yell out 5,000 rats. Or like, what, rats? Well, what? No, I don't want 5,000 rats. That is kind of one of those goofy things. She just it goes into her character, and having, again, technically this very young child that is going through all this crap, and that's technically how she calculates things, because that's all she does is sell rats. Yeah, it's funny, but yeah, I've been enjoying it. Like I said, there's a couple of rough points in the animation, I will admit, but it's keeping it together, and the style kind of sells it for me. So again, easily my most anticipated every week is definitely Weakest Tamer. I was thinking about, once, now that everything's kind of settled with the first impressions, I might switch over to covering the show on weeklies. This is a Thursday or Friday show. I think it's a Friday show, isn't it? Don't tell me it's a Saturday show. I have too much on Saturday. I think it's Friday, because I thought it was Thursday and it wasn't. Yeah, it is a Friday show.
Yeah, I want to say I seen it yesterday or today, so that would mean that it was at least this week, during the weekend.
I might, but I'd have to move over my live stream time again to Thursday or something. But I might do that. Just move my live stream back to Thursday, because I don't really have anything on Thursday that I'm covering, because, Anyways, Thursday kind of turned into my just do other things day of content. So, anyways, that's Weakest Tamer. Side tangent aside. Urusei Yatsura. Who has not watched Urusei Yatsura? This is Urusei Yatsura. I hate this listing. It's Urusei Yatsura 2022 second season.
I need to catch up on it bad.
Just call it Urusei Yatsura 2024 because it started in 2024. I don't know. The idea of them putting a year on there is dumb to begin with. But anyways, yeah. Streaming on High Dive. I think it's going for two. This is a 2-core as well, right? Because I think it was supposed to be a 4-core total, and they were splitting it. Anyways, yeah, it's being done by David's Productions, based on a manga. For those who don't know, Rumika Takahashi, of course, who done Inuyasha, Ramna 1/2, and Mason Ikaku is the original mangaka for Urusei Yatsura. Opens up with a boy that's like a playboy. He's just running around trying to get with girls. And at some point, the government is at his house. Like, everybody's got at his house. Everybody's, like, freaking out because, yeah, this aliens showed up. And they were going to destroy the world. But they do this game where they choose randomly one person on the planet to play a game. And, yeah, Ataru, he was chosen. So he has to be the one that plays this game. And he's going to be competing against Lum, who is, like, the daughter of this alien guy that's actually running all these aliens. And so, yeah, his goal is that he has to catch Lum before a certain date. And so it turns into him basically chasing after Lum, trying to catch her. But, yeah, she could fly. She can zap him. So it's kind of like, you know, almost an impossible task there. But eventually he does get inspired to try harder because Shinobu, this girl that he's always liked, said that she'd marry him if he did it. And yeah, he ends up pulling a trick on Lum and actually catching her and, yeah, immediately says, I'm going to get married. And Lum hears this and goes, oh, okay, yeah, I'll marry you. And then at that point, Lum, this alien girl, believes that Ataru is going to be marrying her. So, yeah, that kind of turns into the joke gag of the series is Lum is constantly after him and constantly calls him darling and that they're already married, basically. And all the while, they're kind of running into different quirky individuals like Mindo, who's like this very rich guy that shows up that likes Lum. You have Ran, who is another alien that Lum knows that she's jealous of Lum because the guy that she likes is after Lum as well. And then you have like the Snow Queen girl they run into at some point. This season we get into, you know, Tobimaru's sister, which is Asuka, who's never ever met a man before in her entire life because they have a ritual in their family to the daughters have to be separated until they're of age, and then at which point they can finally meet boys, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, shenanigans ensues. But yeah, as I alluded to earlier, I sort of wasn't feeling the first season of this remake. Yes, this is a remake. There was an original adaptation of it a long time ago that I watched a long time ago, and it was a lot of fun back then. And so obviously David Productions coming into the picture and doing this, I was pretty excited for it. The PVs immediately, I was like, my gosh, they're doing a great job of both nailing that old aesthetic, but also bring it to modern times. Just like MAPPA and how they did Ushio and Tora. Perfect. Like they nailed it. They still have that old aesthetic, but it's modernized. The seiyus were doing a fantastic job. I mean, we have Araragi. His seiyu is doing Ataru. We have, you know, the seiyu behind Lum is just nailing that verbal tick that she has. She's just super cute. I love her voice. And we have like, what's her face? Lilia, whatever, from Danmachi. She's voicing Shinobu, which is a fantastic seiyu as well. The seiyus are just top notch in this series, and they're all doing an incredible job of nailing their characters, and it looks absolutely stunning. It's got a lot of that nostalgia there, visual nostalgia that they're just absolutely nailing with the series itself. A lot of the quirkiness is just being pulled off. But with the first season, they already pretty much established that when they were doing this adaptation, they were going to focus on, first and foremost, just skipping a lot of content. Because their focus in doing this new adaptation is that they just wanted to hit all the character introductions. And so it did feel like the first season was just literally episode after episode of skipping to each of the character introductions. So it's just constantly introducing characters and getting their initial shtick out there. And while that doesn't bother me too much, one of the things that I kind of noticed was that there was so much introductions and not enough of the comedy that you used to have in the series. But yes, I kind of I put it this way, and I think I still kind of hold to it, is I think that this is sort of a very tame version of an old anime. Old anime, especially like even with Urusei Yatsura, they liked a lot of ecchi comedy that would just kind of happen. It wasn't like, you know, constantly butt shots and stuff like that. It was just stuff would happen. Like Lum's top would just come flying off. It just happens. There was a lot of just happens types of humor. And that was sort of one of the charms that the new adaptation lost, because there's just no nudity in this. It's trying to be as clean and child friendly as possible. And that kind of was also bugging me when I was watching the first season of this new adaptation. Now, going into the second season, I think, again, putting that aside, and I think now mostly having all the introductions done. Again, we did introduce Asuka here recently, but we're now focusing on some of the more core story later on in the series, which is a lot to do with Ataru. And yes, is he okay with Lum anymore? Does he like it whenever Lum's no longer around? Does it bug him? And now he's suddenly starting to get that realization that he does kind of care about Lum and wants to protect her, or doesn't like when other people are around her. So that stuff starts to pop up that I've actually been enjoying. Like we had the whole moment where she bumps her head and then cannot communicate anymore in human tongue, so she just leaves, and he's starting to feel lonely without her around. And this later part with, I guess technically another introduction, the guy that shows up from the electrical force that literally runs off with Lum, claiming that he's supposed to marry her. Again, Ataru gets jealous. But so yeah, I don't know if it's just because I've kind of left that frustration behind about how like sanitized the show has become without the lack of the ecchi humor, which is not like, I'm not saying that like every 2 seconds has to have like boob shots. That wasn't even the original series. It's just that it was something that was present. But that was sort of a humor, plus the fact that the first season was so much of bam, 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 bam introductions, that I think I'm enjoying the second season more, because it is, I guess the humor's working a lot for me this time around because it's more the later stuff. So I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain, but it's all for me to say that I have been really loving this season of Urusei Yatsura, even though I had my frustration with the first season. So how far back are you?
First season.
I remember when we were wrapping up the reviews of that second core of the first season, I remember I was basically, I spent like a 2-day blitz going through the entire second half of it, because I was behind on it too. Because I think that was one of the shows where I got to like episode 10 or whatever, and then I lost track because another season came up. And then so when the reviews came up, I actually went back to go watch it. I'm like, oh, this hasn't been touched. Chris is in trouble too. And then yes, you technically didn't review it with me, so I was like, okay, yeah, he's way back there.
Yeah,
probably like episode 12 or something.
I want to say that I at least watched the first core.
Yeah. There you go. That's Urusei Yatsura. Really enjoying the season. Let's see here. Buchigiri. This is going to be another one that's going to be very quick, because I just don't want to talk about this show. I just don't want to talk about it. Another one that I kind of wanted to like it, but it just didn't work for me. Even though as much time I wanted to give it, it just wasn't working out. But yeah, it is done by Studio Mappa, and I think that's probably why a lot of people kind of gravitate towards it. And is, yes, technically one of the few things that I do like about it is it's got a lot of really good animation in it. But yeah, it's an original, and it follows Arajin, and Arajin is going to this new school. I guess he's coming back to this one town, I believe, and at some point he's being chased off by some rough dudes, ends up going to this one shrine and finding this little gun that he pulls on the guys. It misfires, ricochets off the wall, and hits him in the head. The guys think he's dead, but then they run off and kind of find out Arajin has essentially released upon himself this I forget what they call him. It's basically like a Jin, Seni. And Seni is wanting to bestow upon Arajin the spirit of fighting. And all he requires is for Arajin to state his wish, which every single time ends up being that I want to lose my virginity, at which point he empowers Arajin to beat the crap out of other people. But it doesn't seem like he wants to fight, even though it seems like he had a past with a guy named Matakara, which wants him to join their gang because he knows that Arajin is a good fighter, but Arajin doesn't want to have anything to do with him for some reason. I haven't gotten that any explanation of that. He just really badly does not want to be anywhere near Matakara, even though Matakara really respects Arajin from their past. At some point, they have the introduction of another gang, which is led by Marito. Marito has a sister who Arajin really likes, Maharo. And Maharo is like literally the only female character in the entire series. So it's really easy for her to be really cute because she's the only female character. She's really, really cute. But Arajin's like obsessed with her and wants to date her, and she basically lures him into meeting her brother. She's obsessed with her brother, so she doesn't care about Arajin. And yeah, he ends up joining Marito's gang because Mahoro asked him to. And then, yeah, they have this big showdown with Matakara's gang that he's with, and that's about as much as I can get through. It's about as much as I can do. Yeah, I just nothing about this show, unfortunately, is really working for me besides, like, you know, some good animation with some of the fight scenes and stuff like that. It's kind of like how did I just explain it one time? It was like School Rumble with, like, the guy that's obsessed with losing his virginity, and the only thing this guy talks about is losing his virginity, and Arajin, all he cares about is telling other people that he just wants to lose his virginity, and he just wants to lose his virginity. And they have this one point where the plot line just, like, completely flips on its head, like this massive plot twist.
And he wants to lose
his virginity. Yes.
Gotcha.
I'm surprised you guessed that one, Chris. Gosh, Chris must have read my mind. Crazy stuff. But yeah, it's just not working for me. And I think the main reason why it's not working for me is it does have a bit of that absurdity in it, and the idea of, like, this Marito guy is obsessed with eating these, like, wrap things, and he's kind of quirky in his own way. Mahoro, like I said, is just obsessed with her brother and is kind of goofy in that regard. Seni trying to make him, Arajin, get stronger or whatever, but then always kind of is thrown off by the fact that Arajin just has, like, the worst driving force ever. But I just don't like any of the characters, especially the main character is just god-awful. And there's nothing really else here for me. I guess this through and through the show just doesn't seem to work for me, unfortunately. As much as I kept kind of pushing the next episode and the next episode, looking for something to kind of grab me.
You don't want to see if he was going to lose his virginity?
Based on it being an anime, I doubt he'll ever lose his virginity.
He might hold hands.
Unless they pull, like, a Farming Life in Another World or Banished from the Heroes Party, where it suddenly just, like, cut scene and, oh yeah, I guess they think they did it. Yeah, I think they did it. Well, somebody's pregnant, so somebody had to have done it. like a cut a couple weeks later, and Mahoro suddenly has a little bump, and it's like, something happened. Either she ate too much, or I think she might be. I don't know.
She might have gotten her ribbon pulled.
Maybe Arajin got with Matakara. I don't know. Maybe they got pregnant. Yeah, she does. She doesn't have any ribbons. She got, like, this whole where, like, she has the ribbons in her little buns, but yeah. Yeah. Anyways, I'm gonna not beat the dead horse. Butchigiri. If you're looking for a fun little fighting show, check it out. But not me. Another one that I'm not going to talk too much about is Snack Basue. The show that I joked before that the producers and everybody wasted their entire budget on hiring Ria Takahashi. Because, yes, the main character of Snack Basue is Akemi, who is this waitress of this snack bar place. And her whole thing is that customers come into the bar, and Akemi will then serve them drinks and listen to their worries, while at the same time, Busway, this old lady, this like veteran of the bar, is off to the side, and she'll make comments every now and as well and join in the conversation. And yeah, I watched 2 episodes, ? And it's not a bad show. First and foremost, it's not a bad show. I will say the show is it's seemingly kind of a mixture between sort of more adult humor, not like you know, raunchy or anything like that, just a mature humor, like an adult would find humorous, and another mixture of sort of a lot of references to more cruder and younger humor. I mean, I did see somebody had a screenshot that they technically do reference Subaru from ReZero, so there's obviously like a mixture of where they're sort of hitting at. And I think it's more of a younger adult audience that they're kind of trying to hit with a lot of the humor. And it's one of those shows where I get what they're doing, but at the same time, it is in that realm of when it goes into a skit. This is my biggest issue that I have with it. When it goes into a skit, you'll realize very quickly if it's going to work for you or not. because it does sort of kind of introduce a joke, and then it tries to expand on it, expand on it, expand on it, expand on it. Like, for example, guy comes into the bar and it's already kind of emphasizing very quickly, yeah, this guy's kind of a pervert. And it goes into him how he's like talking to Akemi about his relationship issues. And it's not so much that he has relationship issues, that he's just a pervert. And he's looking for that special somebody that will accept him for how he is, which is a pervert. He quickly goes, I bought these glasses for a lot of money that's able to see through clothes, and they immediately break his glasses. And he goes, okay, but I have this device that does this thing, and they immediately break it. And so it's constantly him he's basically been spending a lot of his money online and through catalogs buying these dumb things that claim they can do something perverted, but they don't actually do it. Like X-ray glasses doesn't exist. So he's just wasting his money. So they break it and they make a joke off of it. And again, it kind of goes into that realm of he's just looking for that special somebody that will accept him for who he is. Again, pervert. And that goes into other characters. They'll introduce a character and they have this issue, and Akemi and Basue will listen to his issues, and they'll play on that joke of that issue throughout the segment. And I think that's mainly the reason why I didn't want to spend too much time on the show, is because in most cases I would find that joke initially like, okay, and then very quickly go, yeah, not working. And then, okay, I get the joke. You're going to just keep going, aren't you? And I think that's it. It makes sense for the style of comedy they're doing here, which again it's the room, and the people come into the room and then they play off each other. So I don't expect them to kind of jump into different subjects. Those subjects should kind of play into each other, and the idea is that they're pouring out their life to Akemi and Basue. So it works in that regard. But at the same time, unless you're on every single one of these boats and you're getting it and you're liking it, you're in for a ride of either being bored out of your mind and not being able to get off the train, or you're gonna love it. So that's sort of where I lay with it. Is it has potential to be really funny and have a lot of references. I mean, the OP is just full of references, tons of Gundam references. It has a lot of potential there, and it can be a lot of fun. And I do love Akemi because, again, Rie Takahashi, and she nails it. I mean, she even has like this whole segment of the first episode. She literally does the ED where she's singing like some old love song because she's doing karaoke. And every episode, it seems like every episode they do an ED and somebody else sings a karaoke song. It's got something there. It's just it too often isn't working, and I don't want to waste time trying to tread through it, trying to find the funny points, especially since everything is basically a punchline with it. So that's my thoughts on Stack Busaway. Let's go to Tsukimichi. Moonlit Fantasy Season 2. This is so funny. This is like the last show that I watched this season, and I feel so bad. And at the same time, I'm not sure that I'm misguided in a way. Tsukimichi Moonlit Fantasy second season. Suki ga Michi Biku Isekai Dochu second season. This one's being done by Studio JC staff, based on a light novel, action, comedy, adventure, fantasy. For those that missed the first season, it opened up with Makoto, who is self-proclaimed the worst luck isekai ever. And the idea that he just went to go to sleep, and then he woke up in another world, or no, he woke up in front of the god of their world. And the god himself, Tsukuyomi, basically tells him, yeah, sorry, man. Essentially what happened is your mother and father, they came from another world. And they came from another world under the agreement that at some point they would send back their most precious thing back to that world. And so that's you. And so you got to go back to where your family came from in order to complete that contract. But I'm going to take care of you. Don't worry. I got you covered. I'll delete your hard drives. He's like, yeah, thank you. I'll get rid of all of your lewds. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. But additionally, he's going to grant him a blessing, and he tells him, look, you know, this goddess you're going to be working under in this other world, she's hard to deal with, but just be patient with her. And he's like, no, that's fine. Whatever she has going with her, I'll be patient with her. Sends him off. He's then in front of this goddess, and the goddess immediately says, oh my gosh, you are the ugliest thing I've ever seen. There's no chance your mother and father bore you. that's horrible. Look, all right, whatever. I'm going to send you down to my world, but I want you to stay as far away as possible from my humans in that world. I don't want you to spread your ugly seed upon them. Also kind of gives him a little bit of blessing and sends him on his way to like the farthest edges where all the demi-humans are at, which are kind of lesser in this world. But yeah, as he's falling, thankfully, Tsukuyomi shows up again and is like, oh man, sorry about that. Also, I'm going to give you another blessing. He explains to him that, yes, technically that Makoto in our world was sort of in a setting where our powers is suppressed. In this world, essentially magic and everything is suppressed. We're in hard mode here. The gravity's more and everything like that. Whereas this other world that he's going to, he's going to be much more powerful just based on the fact that he's lived in our world for so long. So he's going to have abilities and everything like that. The goddess gave him the ability to understand all languages and read all languages, but not be able to speak human. So that's kind of a down issue that he has. Additionally,
she doesn't want him to interact with her humans. She said,
humans. Additionally, Tsukuyomi gave him a certain blessing, which is the ability to control this. Was it called a chi or key or something like that? He's able to control like this area around him. He's able to expand that area around him and manipulate anything within that realm. Later on, he even used it to expand upon to somebody, and he's able to essentially heal them in that realm. Additionally, he can like control it to where it forms around a weapon, and then manipulate the strength of the weapon itself, so he can turn a dagger into this thing that cuts through a tree like nothing. But yeah, he goes to this outside realm, ends up meeting Emma and the orcs, eventually helps them by defeating this dragon, which is Tomoe. Tomoe looks into his memories, because that's the ability that she has, and sees that he has all these memories of these samurai dramas, and she becomes obsessed with them. And then eventually he goes on a travel, ends up going into this other realm that's within Tomoe, that's like this demi realm, and then he's able to manipulate that realm to kind of match his old world and expand it a lot more, and then eventually bring people in there and create a city inside of it. And then going into the second season, it's kind of continuing that. He's trying to essentially go to research more to get stronger, because he nearly got taken out. And he wants to essentially walk in the footsteps of his family, or his parents, who used to be in this world, to find out what things they did in that world and everything like that. And at the same time, expand his trading from his demi world and, to this world. So, yeah, and that's quickly shifts in this season to introducing and getting into the two characters that were teased in the first season, which was the two other heroes that were brought here by the goddess, which is, I don't know if I can put them on the list here. But one is a female who seemingly knew Makoto in his previous life. She was immediately thrown to one of the kingdoms, or summoned to one of the kingdoms, and she then gets a group, and they go out and get stronger. And what was her secret power? I forget. Oh, it was the scarf, right? That was her gift, or was she had something else? She has a scarf that can turn into like this big wolf that protects her.
Yeah, there's that.
But I forgot she had something else.
I don't remember.
And yeah, the boy that they was summoned to another kingdom, he was granted this eye, and this eye is able to make anybody that he wants to turn into, essentially obey his command. Kind of like a vampire. What's the term? Thrall. He's able to enthrall anybody. And additionally, he's immortal at nighttime. So that was an oddity. Like, I'm also going to make you immortal at night. Why not? Why not day and night? Why is it only nighttime? But yeah, he quickly starts to sadly control people without thinking about it. But then when he learns to control the ability, he's able to kind of control certain people when he wants to. But yeah, he turns into a a-hole. Mio at the same time, which is one of the people that joined Makoto really early on, she just started to try to cook things, and so she's running everywhere trying to cook things. Tomoe is kind of looking into what happened at the end of the first season, the big explosion that Makoto caused. And yeah, Shiki's hanging out with Makoto as he goes to an academy, and well, he went there to become to do an exam to become a student so that he could be a resident so they can open up a shop. But then Rembrandt's butler made a mistake and gave him the exam for becoming a teacher. So then he has to become a teacher, and now he's trying to make the students quit by doing crazy stuff. Yeah. And that's so far what I've watched.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts?
Okay.
There we go. That's a good start.
I am enjoying it still. I want to be very clear on this. I mean, me and Andrew have discussed this prior to coming on, so kind of roughly have an idea of where each of us falls on this particular season. I am still enjoying it. I am a little bit frustrated with the kind of side road onto the heroes. I hope that this all pays off. The one hero I do like. I really do enjoy the kind of story that particular character is going through as far as getting to the point where these characters are meeting. The other character I didn't much care for. I get
Hibiki. I found her. Hibiki's the girl. Sorry.
I get that they're going for a kind of more malevolent kind of direction for that character, but I just don't feel it. It's just not really working for me. I hopefully that the everything will pull together when all is said and done, but as it stands right now, it's kind of frustrating because you are in a certain direction as far as how the show feels, and that show doesn't feel right when it's not on those main characters. So take that for what it is. I am still enjoying it. And I'm just patiently waiting for everything to pull together.
Yeah, I think that's kind of in that same realm as what I was talking about earlier, where you have sort of a second season going into a state where it doesn't feel like what originally worked for it. And I think that was the key point that I told Chris earlier, was that I just don't think it's working. And it's still good. I still like a lot of these scenes. Like, I really still love, like, Makoto traveling around with Shiki's great. Like it, what works so, and it's so fair. It's so funny because it's not as if Makoto himself does anything that's interesting. It's just always whoever's with Makoto just works so well. And a lot of cases with like Mio with him, he's always, he does, he can kind of say himself, is that Shiki with him is almost similar to Mio. Like he goes to this one town, and he's like, oh, good thing I don't have Mio with me because she would, and then Shiki does it. And it's like everybody that's with Makoto sees Makoto as like their god. And so anybody that ever even speaks negatively about him, they got to go. And then Makoto's constantly like, no, chill out. And so like a lot of the scenes with Makoto and Shiki still work. But like the whole like academy stuff is just like, oh, we got to do this so that he can just have the students see how Sugoi he is. Like, are we going to do anything interesting here? It's sprinkling this other lady that's the sister of this girl that's at this restaurant might be something interesting because she immediately knew who he was. And so it's obvious that she's not like who she says she is. But yeah, I'm with Chris on the idea that I'm not really sure I like everything that's happening with like Hibiki and Tomoki. I'm fine with Hibiki because she's interestingly enough, she's already kind of ran into issues with dealing with death, coming to this new world, being seen as somebody that needs to save the world, sort of being forced to take on the role of saving the world, and then immediately running into loss and the responsibilities that it's kind of played upon her. And then having this brief moment where it seems like she might be able to be pulled into the fold with Mio, which is funny because she literally got attacked by Mio as one of the first challenges that she faced. Now she's literally having to show Mio how to cook things because she doesn't know it's Mio. And then at the same time, having Tomoe have to run into Tomoki and basically snub his head in the ground. I think everything so far is fine. It's not to the levels of what I enjoy with the first season, but everything's working out fine. The only real stain so far is that I don't know that I see a purpose in Makoto going to the academy quite yet, and it's spent a lot of time on that. I'm looking for that punchline that's not really popping up yet. And additionally, I don't like how they're doing Tomoki so far. I can see Tomoki being a very interesting storyline if it's presented right. So far, the obvious response here is that Tomoki is the result of somebody that is seeking to be recognized. He was bullied in his previous life. Now he's in this life. He's been given power, the ability to control people, make anybody like him now. And now that he can't, with a case with like Tomoe, now he's suddenly not allowed to have what he wants, and that frustrates him. No, I get everything that I want in this world. This is the world where I'm the hero. This is the world where I get everything. The problem is I didn't like that journey, because early on he's like timid, and every now and then his power activates, and he's a little uncomfortable with the fact that his power will suddenly activate, and suddenly everybody wants to marry him. And the queen is talking about, you know, manipulating him and controlling him and using him for her benefit. And then it goes into, okay, cut forward. He's returning from battle, and the queen's walking along the side of him and talk about, oh, you did a great job. Are you ready to go meet the other hero? Because you're going to do like this joint work with the other kingdom who has another hero. It might be from your world. Is that interesting? And he's like, yeah, whatever, that's fine. Cut to the meeting between Tomoki and Hibiki. So you have, again, Makoto is the first isekai. That's the main character. Then you have the second isekai, Hibiki. And then you have the third isekai, which is Tomoki. Finally, Hibiki and Tomoki are meeting. They're in the same room together. First time they meet each other. Two people from our world in this fantasy world. And Hibiki is trying to make conversation, is being very casual. And Tomoki the entire time is like, yeah, whatever. Leave me alone. Like, he literally hates her guts. And I'm like, did I miss a scene? Like, I'm literally trying to figure out, what did I miss? Like, why is suddenly Tomoki a dick? Like, why is he being such a jerk? It makes no sense to me. Okay. And then cut forward, and suddenly he's in front of Tomoe, and suddenly he's freaking out about how he can't have everything he wants. And it's like, oh god, what do we... Well, no, technically before then they had the battle against the Demon Lord army, and he lost all his power, and then he's mad because now he needs to find a weapon because the demons have the ability to remove the goddess's blessing, and that makes him extremely weak and vulnerable, and he doesn't like that. So the leap was like that point between Hibiki and Tomoki is like, why is he this way? Like, what happened? Like, did I miss something? And I don't know. It seems like it's trying to push him in the realm of being super evil very quickly, and it's just not. It's not working. It's just not working for me. So, but yeah, outside of that though, I still love every scene with Tomoe in it. Tomoe, best girl, obviously. Mio's scenes, I do like Mio. I've always liked Mio, but at the same time, I think she's where... I mean, everything up until the point where Mio meets Hibiki a second time, when she wasn't a spider, I just wasn't feeling it. Like, every scene with Mio was literally, I need to cook things. I need to cook things. Oh, she cooks things that are terrible. I need to find things to cook. Gotta find something to cook. I'm gonna find something to cook. I'm gonna find something to cook. Found seaweed. I'm gonna cook the seaweed. And it's like, gosh, just please... Can we have Mio do something besides trying to fight? I know why she's doing it, because she's trying to make something for her master that was from his old world. And I understand that, but I don't need every scene with her talking about making food. Do something. They're just bored trying to find something to do until the master comes back. But yeah, I've loved all the scene with Makoto and Shiki. Shiki's been great, and obviously Kenjiro Tsuda, so that's partly why I love his character so much. But yeah, him making everybody love him. Like, that girl from that school is like absolutely in love with Shiki. But yeah,
it's obviously because he's Kenjiro Tsuda. Obviously,
yeah. Get that gruffiness in that voice. Not enough Emma though. Where's all the Emma scenes? She was dead in one scene because Mio was cooking again. But other than that, I think my favorite scene so far was definitely Tomoe just completely rubbing that guy's face in the ground, the queen and everybody. No, you're gonna do what we say. Quit looking at me like that. It's like, why is my power not working? Give us that sword. I told you already, the sword only is wieldable by me. How much money do you want? I literally told you, no one can use the sword but me. I love it. It was great. But yeah, Tomoe has always been good. It was interesting because, like, that was one of those interesting ideas that Tomoki immediately knew. Tomoe is not of this world. Like, why is she dressed like, literally like a samurai? He knew that there was something interesting about Tomoe, that she wasn't fitting this world. And we obviously know, because Tomoe essentially takes upon herself the persona of a samurai from the mind of Makoto. The concept of a samurai in this world doesn't exist. So that Tomoki immediately goes, holy crap, you're literally a samurai. What are you doing here? Who are you? But yeah, her completely just absolutely just flipping the bird was great. So, which just kind of makes it all the more worth it that we had to sit through a bunch of Tomoki being an idiot because he's an idiot character, and I'm not sure if I'm ever going to like his character. Hopefully, eventually Makoto will just delete him, because one of the interesting ideas that they have kind of dabbled in with this series has been Makoto having his first blood, like drawing first blood. He, at some point in the later parts of the first season, slight spoilers here, he does take a life, and it was through pure anger, through revenge. Somebody entered his domain, his village, got a child injured and killed somebody else, and he, through just rage, literally just killed this lady. And he sort of dabbles in it again with this season, like with these bandits that are attacking, and he very quickly kind of goes, yeah, that's something I've experienced, and I'm willing to kind of experience it again if it's to protect other people. Just wipes out a bunch of bandits. We didn't wipe them out, he knocked them all out, but he does hit on the idea that he's kind of willing to do it again if he has to. So I do like how they've been handling his sort of, not that he's turning bloodthirsty, not that he's becoming a killer, not that he's going to go like the route of like super edgy, dark isekai. It's just a, if I have to, I will do this. And I do like that they've kind of presented that decently well so far, despite the fact that it's kind of a goofy, silly series. So, yep, that's Tsukimichi. Anything else from you?
No.
Yeah. Oh, I just realized they've not brought up his childhood friend in this season yet. He brought up his childhood friend all the time from in the first season. I just realized he's never brought her up now. I'll be curious if Hibiki will recognize him. Do you think now that she's in this world, will she see Makoto as, oh, that's Makoto? Or will she somehow see him as an orc, like everybody else does? Everybody, for those, I didn't mention that aspect of it, but everybody in this world sees him just like the goddess did. Everybody thinks he's a demi-human, that he's ugly. So, and then add to the fact that he can't talk human, that it doesn't really help out too. And he also had an insane amount of mana, which made everybody think.
I wonder if it'll be the mana that they'll use.
I think he's gonna lose his ring before he runs into her, and thus they're implying. Well, I don't know if you've seen an episode. I haven't. The last episode I seen, he just went back to the plane.
To the plains, yeah.
And it's obviously he's gonna run into Hibiki because Hibiki's there, and he said when he first arrived there, what's going on, and he's out in the middle of the forest. I'm wondering if he either senses her or he's noticed the plane itself has changed. Because I'm wondering if her being in that plane is going to manipulate just like he did. So why would he say that the moment he got there unless he's sensing her mana from a distance? Something's happening, like something's like chaos is happening for some reason.
I had no idea what he was going to see. I didn't know that she was in there. But I guess that would make sense if Mio brought her there. Yeah,
Mio brought her there. They're going to craft her party some armor while she teaches her how to cook Japanese. Because she knows what seaweed is. You know what that is? No, I'm Hibiki. That was kind of funny. You know what seaweed is? Or you said seaweed. Like, no, I'm Hibiki. That was a goofy little play off of words there. And our last show that we have to talk about, saving the best for last, is Hokkaido Gals. Which I think of all the shows, I'm kind of surprised that Chris didn't get to watch, but time, that time thing. Hokkaido Gals are super kawaii, or adorables, or Dosanko Gal wa Namara Minkoi. Namankoi. That word, for some reason, Namankoi is just not working in my mouth right now. But yeah, Crunchyroll streaming it for 12 episodes, done by Blade and Silverlink. It's based on a manga, comedy, romance, slice of life. I really feel like I've already talked about this show now that I'm going through this list, but it's probably because I did a video on it. Double checking list. Yes, I have not covered it yet. Otherwise, we're just doing it again. We're doing it again. Opens up with Tsubasa, who is moving to Hokkaido. And when he arrives there, he stupidly decides, well, not really stupid because it ends up in his favor, stupidly decides to get out of the cab early because he figures he could just walk to his new house in Hokkaido, and quickly realizes he's lost, and then runs into this girl named Minami Fuyuki, who is a gyaru, They call it gal in this translation, but gyaru, which gyaru are basically like valley girls of Japan. They just kind of do themselves up really pretty. Usually, even if it's cold, they roll up that skirt and they show them legs because beauty comes in pain, right? What's the term? Beauty is in pain. I think it's what it is. You don't know what it? You never heard that? Anyways, yeah, they usually say that. It's beauty and pain. But yeah, she has a short skirt, open top and everything, even though it's freezing cold out there. And he asks her for directions, and she's like,
let me guess, not wearing the sweater. The sweater is around the hips.
I don't remember. She had a scarf on at least. But yeah, he asks her for directions, ends up finding out that he's from Tokyo. She immediately freaks out. It's obviously indicates that she really thinks that Tokyo is the best place ever, and Hokkaido is just the sticks, and she doesn't want to be there anymore. Kind of get an indication later on that, yes, she wants to go to Tokyo. I mean, that's pretty much the epicenter of Gyaru culture and everything like that. But yeah, she starts asking a bunch of questions about his life over there. It's obviously very quickly that Tsubasa wasn't the most popular person in Tokyo. He's kind of a shut in most of the time, didn't really get out much, but still she asked him a bunch of questions thinking that Tokyo is the greatest place ever. Eventually goes to school, finds out that, yeah, he's in the same class as her, and of course she sits right next to him, and she helps him out with a lot of things. Use a lot of her knowledge of being in Hokkaido, which is a much more colder climate, to help them with, you know, how they handle with certain situations, what best time to go out, hanging out together. She invites him back to her place where they, yes, watch a movie together, which has some lewd scenes in it. Eventually, one point ends up meeting his grandmother, which doesn't like the idea of open relationships and, you know, casually walking around with the opposite sex or whatever. And immediately Minami helps out, you know, guiding them back to their house so that she doesn't get injured because there's like black ice and stuff in certain areas. But yeah, eventually leads to them going to a skiing place where Tsubasa learns how to ski. At the same time, Sayuri, who is this other gal from their class that Minami really badly wants to be friends with, he ends up helping her. The two of them kind of meet each other, and he learns Sayuri's secret that she is a she sweats a lot. That's her thing, that is that she sweats a lot, and that's why it's kind of caused her to be kind of secluded from other people, and so she just games. So she's the gamer girl, and yeah, eventually he pulls her in the mix. So I haven't met the third girl though. But I met Minami's mom though. She's basically got it too. So you know where Minami got it from is from her mother, and she was basically trying to get Tsubasa hooked up with her daughter. But yeah, that's Hokkaido Gal so far. I haven't watched it recently. I watched the episode after Sayuri was introduced, which I think was like episode 4 or 5, and I'm pretty sure that I'll get back to it. But yeah, this series I think is in the realm of obviously the perfect waifu character type of show, the really hot girl that meets the dumb main character that has nothing going for him, but he's kind of a good guy every now and then whenever it counts. So that's obviously why the girls love him so much, is because he always says the right thing at the right time. And that's definitely applies to this show in the idea that I don't care for Tsubasa as a character. Like, the main guy, he's pretty dang boring. He's got no charisma to himself. He doesn't have anything really going for himself. He doesn't really interest me at all. He doesn't humor me. Nothing really working for him. Other than, again, every now and then he says the right thing at the right time, and that gains Minami's interest. What I have been liking about the show, character-wise, is Minami. I think for a main female love interest character of what's obviously going to turn into a harem show, Minami's a really solid character. I do like her. I think her personality is fantastic. I think that she's got a lot going for her. She has heart where it's needed, and she's kind of a smart. She's smart when she needs to kick it in there, you know. Like I said, the pinnacle scene that I really like most about Minami is that scene where Tsubasa and Minami are walking down the street. Minami just kind of shoots down into this little like snow fort, like this little hole in this little pile of snow, and she climbs up inside there, and obviously she's showing her butt, and she's like, "Come on in here, Tsubasa." They both climb in there together, and obviously he's right on top of her because it's not enough space, and she's making all these suggestive words and comments, and then the grandma just walks by and goes, "Tsubasa, what are you doing?" And the grandma's obviously bringing up a massive question mark, like, "What are you two doing together? What's your relationship?" And again, Tsubasa in his mind's going, "Crap, grandma doesn't like, you know, opposite sex walking around in the open like this and having relationships. She's very much so like old style relationship kind of mentality. And so immediately Tsubasa says, oh, she's just a classmate. That obviously hurts Minami. And that would be typically where you have the, you know, she leaves and then later on the next day of school, Tsubasa's constantly have to say, I'm sorry, I had to say that because, you know, my grandma, this and that and that. I had to kind of mull things over. No, Minami immediately goes and chases after them as they leave and goes, no, ma'am, don't go that way. You should take this route because my grandmother went that way this one time and it's black ice and she slipped and broke her hip and, you know, you'll be much safer and you'll get there quicker if you go this route going to your house, and kind of guides them. And the grandma's like, oh, this girl's actually kind of a good girl. I do like her personality. She hits it in there when she needs to, and she's got a lot going for her. And I think a lot of that story has to do with the fact that, yes, it's obvious that Minami views, before Tsubasa got there, Minami viewed Hokkaido as being the sticks. There's nothing here. Why would you move here from Tokyo? Tokyo is the best place ever. And even when she invites him to go to this one, like little kind of festival they were having in Hokkaido, she invites him to go there, and she hadn't been there since she was in like middle school. And she didn't realize until when the day of it, that she's like, crap, what if he comes there and he thinks that like this is the most boring thing ever and he's upset about it? And so she's like very hesitant about the whole situation. But when they get there, he's having a blast. And then suddenly she's like, I like the fact that you discovering Hokkaido has made me like Hokkaido again. So she's rediscovering what's great about Hokkaido as she's trying to introduce Tsubasa into what there is to do there and everything. So it's been good with Minami so far. Sayuri, I got nothing. She's just the gamer girl that has secluded herself. Kind of feel bad about that, but I've not really gotten anything from her character so far, but that's really where I kind of sit with the show so far. Is I think the main character sucks. Minami's great. Not really getting anything from really anybody else in the show. It's got a decent premise there, and again, I think a lot of that has to do with Tsubasa just meeting all these characters and them having their own difficulties. But at the end of the day, I've been enjoying it, if not for anything but for Minami's character and what they're doing overall. So it's not I wouldn't tell anybody to go either way for the show, but at the same time, compared to most shows like this, I've been enjoying a lot more than most. So that's saying a lot because I deal with a lot of perfect waifu shows. That's it. Did we miss anything? Can you think of any shows that we have not talked about, Chris? I think we got them all. I'm looking through this right now. Yeah, I think we got them all, Chris. We did the tank one, right? Yeah, we did the tank one. And we don't do mid cores for the shows that are still ongoing. We'll talk about those again sometime. Maybe we'll do a spoiler talk or something at some point to kind of hit a lot of that stuff that's kind of still going on. And like Frieren, which is like what, 24 episode 24 now.
I don't know.
It just keeps going, man. I know it's going for 28. So at some point I forgot that it was going for 28. And I'm like, oh crap, it's almost done. It's a 2-core. It's going to end early. Oh, that's right. It's 28 episodes. Thankful. I hope that gets another season. If it doesn't, Riot. I think it's doing so dang well for that channel. I think they got to do a second season of it. So anyways, that is the winter 2024 anime season first impressions. We are finally done. Next week we'll be doing our reviews. Now, what's the latest show we have? I think we only have like one show that's 7 or 8 episodes. So we still got another month, obviously, because we still have March.
Yeah, we still have March.
April's when all the next season starts. So yeah, I'm assuming next week we'll probably do a discussional, and then probably not sure what we'll do after that, but then we go right into our previews of the next season. So that'll be fun. We already had our first delay. Something about spring and delays, man. They announced things for spring, and then a bunch of stuff gets delayed. Mm-hmm. We got probably the biggest, most unfortunate thing, the only thing so far. I forget what her name is. The girl that he likes speaks in Russian. Remember that one? It's the girl that she likes him, And so she talks in Russian, and I think it implied that he understands Russian, so he knows that she's talking about how he likes her, or she likes him. So that one, it's really cute girl. So that's a bummer. I was looking forward to that one. She looks great. I think she looks great. And again, that the Seiyu that's going to be doing that character apparently knows Russian, so it actually works out really well. So it's a bummer, but there's still like a million other shows like Spice and Wolf, and Day Alive got announced for that season. So Day Alive's coming back.
Wow.
There's so much stuff in that season. It's not funny. Anyways, that's it for this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed. As per usual, at talkspirit.com, that's where you can go for all of our links, social media links, ways to get us to support us, ways to get a hold of us. I'm mixing the two of them. Greatly appreciate everybody that supports the channel through, Patreon, tips, links, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, with that said, until next time, y'all take care.
Os.